Mark, you're a Chicago-based filmmaker?
Yes, I'm from Chicago, born and raised.
Oh, whereabouts in Chicago?
I'm from Inglewood, the Inglewood community in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
And which is is next door to Hyde Park community, which is where the Obamas are from. So Inglewood, as you all know, is a community that if you hear about the media, it's always the negative press that's coming out. And some of the people are, you have Derrick Rose is from Inglewood, you have Bernie Mac, Jennifer Hudson, and I'm sure we remember the things that happened with her family, and that all took place in the Inglewood community. Yeah.
What brings you to Los Angeles?
So I'm here in Los Angeles because of my film Black and Privilege, Volume 1 is screened at the Pan-African Film Festival, and which has been going on for 27 years, and this is our 6th year attending the festival. Yeah, so I'm very excited about it.
You come out every year for it?
Yes, I do.
Wow.
Yes,
okay.
I do. I come out every year for the festival. Whether I have something in it or not, I'm supporting it.
Nice.
Yeah.
What do you notice about the filmmaking community in Chicago versus Los Angeles, the energy or whatever it is?
Well, and of course, we don't have as many filmmakers in Chicago as we do in Los Angeles. And the energy, so in Chicago, when I deal with the different filmmakers, they're always, they're on the hustle. There's always a hustle, there's always a grind trying to, because here's the thing is in Chicago, when you're dealing with investors, you don't have a lot of investors who are savvy when it comes to investing in films, opposed to LA. In LA, you have more investors, and investors are more savvy because they understand the film business a lot more. Chicago is different. And so it brings about a certain type of hustle or energy from the filmmakers. So in Chicago, it's like, it becomes, I talk to a lot of filmmakers and they become frustrated because they feel that they can't find investors to invest in their project. So sometimes you have to, like I tell them, you have to go to LA or go to New York or go wherever to find investors. So in Chicago, people want to invest more into the real estate business opposed in the film business. So the energy is, in that aspect, the energy is different.
And from just meeting someone for, let's say, 5-10 minutes, how can you tell that they have that hustle and that they seem like they do really want to do all of the legwork and the grunt work that most people don't want to do, versus maybe they just say they're a filmmaker and they do make movies, but that hustle isn't there? When
they say, I need you to help me, yes. When someone says, I need you to help me do such and such and such and such, I'm kind of taken aback by that. Not because I don't want to help anyone. I'm always looking to help people. However, you have to be willing to put in the work. If you're putting in the work and you're out here at least with a script, or you're out here meeting different investors and you're out here trying to get your project made, then that's totally different. So even if you go out, you make a film and the film is crappy, right? At least you're out here, you're making something. But when you're not out here trying to get things made and you say, oh, I need help, then that's kind of a problem. Cause we all need help, all of us, but we have to put in the effort, we have to put in the work. And a lot of people want more help, or they want to be helped more than they want to actually put in the work. So if you're out here putting in the work, people will want to help you. And people are looking to help you if you're out here doing the work. So I'm kind of, that's kind of the way I look at things and know that if a person is serious about their craft or not. So if someone comes and say, look, Mark, this is what I've done this, and then I'm going to do whatever I have to do in order to get you the help that you need, or bring in an investor, or whatever I need to help you go to that next level. I'm going to make it happen because I know that you're out here actually working and making things happen for yourself. Yeah.
Do you think that's part of the Midwest work ethic? Because I have definitely seen that people from the Midwest and probably even East Coast, there is a little bit of a different work ethic.
Uh-huh.
Having grown up in California, basically most of my life, there does seem to be a stronger work ethic. Those are my words, not yours. So if anyone wants to bash and say California people don't work hard, they can come at me. But I have seen the difference a little bit.
Between
people from the Midwest definitely have a different idea about work.
Yeah, I don't know because I know this is what I do know. Like when you're dealing with, in particular Chicago, because I'm from Chicago, I tend to see there are filmmakers who they may get angry at me for saying this, but making a lot of excuses. So as filmmakers and as artists, we can't make excuses. We can't say, well, this person is not helping me, or we can't say, because my film didn't get in Sundance. What we have to do is we have to go out, and we have to just start to do the work. And so I don't want to say that the work ethic is different, because people in LA, you have more films that are being made. You have a lot of independent films that are being made. And in Chicago, we don't have a lot of independent films that are being made constantly or consistently. So I don't know if I can say that the work ethic in LA among filmmakers is greater than the work ethic with filmmakers in the Midwest. Right. Now, again, we talk about the Midwest, so I don't know what's going on in Detroit. I don't know what's going on in Michigan, in the other parts of the Midwest. But as far as Chicago, I know that we're not being consistent enough in making feature films.
To go into your story a little bit more, what businesses did you start before you got into filmmaking?
Well, I used to have a cleaners, and I used to have a pager business. And because of the cleaners and the pager business, it's always a constant hustle. I always had to market my pager businesses and my cleaners. So there's always that hustle. So I own 2 pager business, and I own a cleaner and the cleaners.
Can you tell me what that, like every day, what that was like? You're getting up in the morning, and with the pager business, what are you doing?
So when I started to do pages, initially my brother got me into the pager business. He had a pager business that was very successful in Chicago. It was like very well known, very popular. So I wanted to get into the pager business because I saw how successful he was doing financially. And so what I would do is I would go to his pager shop and I would buy pagers. And from buying the pages, I would go and put them in a briefcase, in cell phones, put them in a briefcase, and I would go throughout the city of Chicago and I would sell them. I would go to different places and just sell the pagers and sell the telephones, and I would save the money. And once I saved the money to get a place, my own store, then I opened my first store, and then I would save that money and I opened my second store. And I said, this is, because the money because during the 90s, the pagers were very hot. Right. And then from the pagers is when I decided, okay, a young guy was selling his cleaners. I was like, okay. And that was like, the cleaners is like right down the street from my home. And I was like, let me just try the cleaning business. So I went in, I purchased the cleaners business from him, and I hit the cleaners. And so that's what got me. Yeah. And
did you know anything about the cleaner business before?
Not at all, absolutely not. I didn't know anything about the pager business. I know anything about the cleaning business at all.
So you kind of just like on your feet, learn as you go, kind of like put me out there in the trenches, I'll figure it out.
Yes.
Kind of person.
Same thing with filmmaking. I didn't go to film school. When I shot my first film, I had absolutely no idea how to make a movie. And interesting story is, when I shot my first film, I shot everything in a wide shot. And so when I gave the footage over to my editor, he was like, yo, where are your medium shots and your close-ups? So I learned, and I'm still learning, this is still a process, and I learned as I went along. And so I applied that same energy that I had in the pager business and the cleaning business to the film business.
Do you have sort of a curiosity about everything, about how it works, and you enjoy figuring it out?
I enjoy figuring it out. Yeah, because if I'm not the type of person, and this is what I tell filmmakers all the time, is just go out there, even if you feel like you don't know it, go out there and just do it, and you will learn, you will figure it out. It's just on-the-job training. Because I heard Spike Lee say one time that he didn't feel like he was an actual filmmaker until he did do the right thing. And when he did School Days, he was like, he had more toys to play with, And so with me is that as I was going along in the pager business, in the cleaning business, in the film business, I learned. Kept learning. I'm still learning. Still a learning process. Yeah.
Well, in your IMDb bio, it says that "Just Do It," the Nike slogan, is your favorite saying. So I was going to ask you why. What about that?
Just do it, because I hear a lot of, like, when I do workshops in Chicago or wherever I do workshops at, I don't like people, they want to make films, but they're this block, right? And my thing is, get over that hurdle and just go out and go and do it. Just make it happen. And again, like if people see that you're working and people see that you're doing things, people want to help. They just want to help if they're seeing that you're making the effort to do things. You know, and if people, if you're doing out here and you're constantly making films for us, and you have someone who just doesn't want to help, then you don't bother about that person. Let them go. Don't even think about it. Don't even harbor on that person, because a lot of times we concentrate on the negative instead of concentrating on those people who actually want to help us. So I say, just do it. Just make it happen.
Do you need very little sleep? I could see you just being passionate about something and it's like 3 a.m. and you're like, oh, you know what? I better go to bed.
Oh yes, I'm very like, yeah, I'm very passionate. So even when I did the pager business and the cleaner business, I always knew there was something missing, and I didn't know what it was. I always knew I wanted to write, and I didn't know what I want. I mean, I didn't know whether it wanted to be plays or books, and then I stumbled into the screenplays. And when I stumbled into the screenplays, I had no idea at all that I wanted to direct movies. So when I actually had no other choice but to direct my own film, is when I found my true passion. And so, I mean, that's how it's been.
So you're in LA to promote a film, or?
Yes, I'm in LA to promote a film, my new film. It's called Black and Privilege Volume 1. Yeah.
Okay. And so it's screened today, actually, before we have this interview?
Yeah, it's screened today. We screened at the Cinemark in Baldwin Hills at the Baldwin Center Theater.
Nice. Did you have a Q&A?
Yes, we did have a Q&A. It's interesting because a lot of older people, this one lady was like 88 years old who came out to the screening, and it was it was filled with a lot of older people in their 60s and 70s. And again, like one lady was 88 years old. And I was very surprised because of, I shouldn't say surprised, but it made me think, because this was our third screening here. We screened twice. We screened yesterday and we screened today. And it was a much younger crowd, and today it was a much older crowd. And the feedback from the older crowd was pretty different than the feedback from the younger crowd, which I found to be very interesting. But it's always going to be like that as filmmakers. We're going to get, people going to view your work differently, which is good. Therefore, they can sit back and they can debate about it, argue about it. But we have to be open to the criticism that we're going to get as filmmakers, of course, because when we put our work out there, that's another thing too, is that as filmmakers, a lot of us, we make films and we feel that it's not perfect, so we don't want to show it to anyone. So if you feel that it's not perfect, that's the perfect time to show it, because what happens is that you show it to an audience and you listen to what the criticism is. And from those criticisms, you go back into the laboratory and you make those adjustments and you evolve. That's how we evolve and we grow. Like my first film, again, is a film that I shot everything in wide shot. Everything was shot wide shots, right? And so when I was getting the constructive criticism, I went back and I knew I had to continue to study. And so as film, that's what we have to do. We have to always see ourselves on the path and as students and always studying.
I'm curious, what did the younger people ask versus the older people?
Okay, so the older people, one lady said that this is definitely a project that we all should see, in particular in the Black community, because we all know like what's going on in the Black community as far as the violence and things like that. So she figured, that she was like, you should show this in every Black community. So yesterday I spoke with a much younger woman, and she was like, this was a difficult film to watch. And I was like, what made it difficult? I said, so what made it difficult? And she said, because it's hard to examine self. It's hard to look at self and to examine self. And so this is what the film does, is that it takes the Black community, it takes us out of it's like an out of body experience, right? And for us to examine the conditions that's going on in our community. And that's the thing, that was the difference between the younger generation and then the older generation, because again, the older generation went through an experience where, growing up, where they may live in Mississippi or Alabama, where, you had Black people who own stores and things like that. But the younger people, they didn't grow up in that time period where, Black people control the economics of their community. So when you say, okay, this is why there's so much violence in the Black community, then it's like, oh, it's difficult to watch. It's difficult to look at. But opposed to an 88-year-old lady who say, okay, we need this in every Black community. So that was the difference.
Did you ask some of the younger people why they felt that?
Yes, because again, the reason why they felt that is because, again, it's like some people, right? We like to. It's difficult to do a self-examination, then point the finger and say this is why certain things happen. So it's easy to blame, place the blame on others, opposed to no matter what it is.
Sure.
No matter what it is, to place the blame on others instead of just looking at it, doing a self-examination and saying, okay, this is how I'm going to correct myself. So a lot of us really don't want to correct self. We want to just, place blame on others instead of just correcting self.
So from having those early businesses, pager business, dry cleaners, etc., what did that teach you about like filmmaking?
So the thing is, because as filmmakers, right, a lot of us want to be artists, and a lot of us don't want to deal with the business aspect, which is cool if you don't, but you have to, right? If you depend on other people to take care of the business aspect, you will always be broke. So we have to understand business. We have to understand marketing, because we have to apply those things, not just be artists. We have to apply those things. So if you look at some of the most successful filmmakers, from Tyler Perry to George Lucas to Steven Spielberg, they're not only great filmmakers, but they're also a great businessman. So as a businessman, I took that same energy, those same laws, and I just transferred those laws and that energy and that hustle to the film business. So I knew when I went out to make, even again, I'm gonna just use my first film as an example. Even the first film that I made, I knew everything was shot in wide shot, but I didn't give up. I didn't say, okay, I'm not going to put it out. I didn't say that I don't want it to edit it. I was like, go ahead, just put it together. So we did still put it together. And what I did was, just like I went out with the briefcase, with the pagers, I got copies of the DVDs made, and I went out and hustled those DVDs. It was going door to door. It was going, hitting the streets of Chicago. It was going to different clubs, and we just used that same energy and those same laws and transferred those over to the movie business, which allowed me to continue to make films for the last 15 years. It's because of that drive, that hustle, and understanding the business aspect of filmmaking.
So can you take me through a day of like selling DVDs, what that was like?
Oh yes. So what I would do is I would go first. I always would get like 1,000 copies made, and I would say, okay, I knew that I had to do events. So what I would do is I would do an event, and I would do like a poetry event, right? And I would surround the poetry event and say, okay, $25 for the poetry event. So I would hire poets. I would have like food. But a DVD will come in with that as well. So I wrapped everything around the selling of my movies. And then what I would do is I would get up in the morning, like when I hit the streets, I get up in the morning, get dressed and put my DVDs, a box of DVDs in the car, and I would just go on like a busy street, like say for instance, 87th and Ashland, which is like a really, really major busy street. And I would stand up in front, in the middle of the street with the DVDs as cars driving past and sell the DVDs, and people would stop and they were like, okay, whose movie is this? Is my movie. My name is Mark Harris. I would like, want to know if you would like, to buy my DVD. And most times people were like, oh, okay. They want to support you. Even if they don't watch the film, they want to support you because they see that you're out here making it happen. So today it's a lot easier because we're streaming. You can put your film on YouTube and you don't have to, and people will watch it. But with me, it was like, I went out, hit the streets. I went door to door. When I went door to door, people would come and say, what are you doing? My name is Mark Harris. I'm a filmmaker from Chicago. I would like, to know, like for you to know if you want to buy my DVD. What is it about? I would tell them the storyline, and it was like, okay. Some people say no, but some people say yeah. But every day I would go back. I would hit different blocks up. Even if they tell you no, you go back maybe a week later. And most times people were bad because this person is serious. You just can't take no for an answer at all. And that was our day to day, just going out, hitting the streets, going door to door, going to the clubs, and just selling my DVDs. Yeah.
Would you say you're an extrovert?
No, I'm more of an introvert.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that takes a real confidence or special kind of person to be able to go and be like this self-driver and knock on people's doors. I mean, that's scary.
Yeah, it is. But it's interesting because when I'm around a lot of people, and if I'm not, this is what my wife says a lot. She says when I'm on a set, when she visits me on the set, she doesn't like visiting me, coming to the set for this very reason. She said I'm a different person, and I'm like, and I asked, I said, what do you mean I'm a different person? She said, well, you just a totally different person when you're on the set opposed to when you at home, and so if I'm not doing anything film related, and if there's a party, I'm sitting back observing. But if I have to do something film related on set, then I'm more open. I'm more of an extrovert. And but when I went out with those DVDs, it's overcoming your fear. And a lot of us, and I think that's the key thing, is that a lot of us don't want to share our work because they fear what people may say. A lot of us don't want to go door to door because they fear that people will say no. A lot of us don't want to start on that first screenplay because they fear people will not read it, or they will not get it made, or so their fear is the one. It just controls us. So we have to overcome that fear. And so with me is that I had to overcome. The fear was there. It was there. Going, I was timid. Especially going, especially when I was doing the pagers, and because I've never done that before. So when I did the pagers and when I did and going and asking people to buy pagers, again, that was just sharpening my skills for when I had to do the DVDs, which was what I was most passionate about. But we have to get over that fear and just go out and just do it, make it happen. Just do it. Yeah.
So with the film that you went door to door with, that was your first film?
That was my first film.
Okay, and was that a documentary?
No, it was a narrative.
Okay,
Yeah.
It's called Why Men Cheat?
Why Men Cheat, yes.
Okay.
And of course, that's a catchy subject.
Sure,
Yeah.
I'm sure. sure some people are going to be buying that, yeah. And so did a distributor pick up the film?
That's the only film that I've ever made that I've never got distribution for at all. And that was one of the ones that, my first film again, and that's one of the ones that allowed me to make enough money to make other films, but I never got distribution for that film. That's the only film.
This was in 2005?
This was in 2005.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're knocking on people's doors in the Chicago area, selling them a film about infidelity, and some people are like, yeah, I'll take it, and other people, no, I don't want to see it, or what would they say?
Well, because they were like, what is the film about? A lot of women would say, why do men cheat? So
then they want a conversation.
They want a conversation.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's a key thing too, is that people don't be so quick to just want to get people's money. Have that and be sincere. Have a genuine conversation with people and talk with people. And when you're just so quick to get their money, they're gonna they're not gonna want to support you. But if you have a sincere conversation with people and you just listen to people and give them, be honest with people, you can get their support. So when I would go door to door, a lot of women would be like, why do men cheat? Men be like, man, are you telling our secrets? And so the women, more women, of course, they want to know, why do men cheat? So we would have that discussion, and it would we have that discussion, and then they would buy the DVD. And the more you have that discussion, here's the thing: the more you talk, you have that discussion, and you listen to what they're saying, and you answer their questions honestly. They're going about it because they want to know what this movie is about, and they want to know the secrets of the reasons why men cheat.
Did anyone ever ask you to do one from the female perspective?
No, I've never been asked to do one.
Really?
Why women cheat?
Well, I don't know. Just to kind of do, like you doing Black and Privilege Volume 1. So you could do, I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be a great, I think that would be a great topic to cover. The reason why women cheat.
Yeah, even more taboo.
Yeah.
Than for men.
Because women cheat for different reasons, of course.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm sure. Well, did you find that there was one reason
for men?
For men, or was it various reasons, but it was just a need that wasn't met, whether it was sexual or emotional?
Very different reasons why men cheat. Just be honest. Like, do we really need a reason?
I don't know.
For us, for me, women like more get emotional attached. That's why when men, we find out that the woman that we love cheated on us, we'd be devastated. We could be out there cheating, doing all kind of things. But we find out that a woman cheated on us, we're devastated. We're heartbroken. We're so unforgiving. And so I think that would be a great subject to tackle as far as why do women cheat?
Well, you see it in the media too, and then we'll move on from this topic. But if a man does it, it's a little more forgivable. Okay, he's a man, and she threw him, quote, threw herself at him or whatever. But if a woman does it, it's wow, like, who is she? She's a bad person, So it's just interesting how it's perceived. Back in the day, these indiscretions they would call, right. But yeah, it's just interesting how it's perceived.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we'll move on.
Great subject.
Okay, all right. There's your next movie idea.
Yeah.
Okay. So how many of those DVDs did you sell?
Okay, so we were selling our DVDs for. We got the first run. We did a run of like 1,000. We sold those. Got another run of like another 1,000. So we got a total run of like 5,000. However, we would sell a lot for $10. Sometimes we would do 2 for 10, or things like that. So we sold over the years, maybe like between probably close to 10,000 DVDs. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but this is over a time. Yeah.
Were you ever tempted? Because I know to get those DVDs made were not cheap unless you did like a huge bulk.
I still remember the cost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I would get 1,000 made, and it would be like $1,100.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, $1,100 for 1,000. It was a company called, I don't know if they're still in business, but it was Duplium. And what we would go to them. They would print us 1,000 copies. They would mail it. I had all these big boxes in my room. That was just like, because at that particular time, I lived in the attic of my mom's house.
Oh, okay.
And so I would get these DVDs, and they would ship. It would come to our house, and I would just have all these boxes of DVDs in the attic where I lived. And but I would spend like $1,000 for 1,000 copies, like $1,100 for 1,000 copies.
Were you ever tempted to buy a huge, like even more, or were you afraid that somehow you wouldn't be able to sell them out, or you just wanted to do it in certain increments?
I wanted to do them 1,000 each. Because I knew, but here's the thing, before I actually sold the DVDs, I already knew like how to get rid of at least 300. And that is what I was telling you about is I would do events, like I would do a poetry event, and where I would sell tickets for $25, where, where you get poetry, you get food, and you get a DVD. So I knew that based off that dollar amount, that I was going to at least make my $1,000 back plus a profit where I can reinvest. And then from there, what I can do is, because I wanted people to get the DVD, I can sell a DVD for $5, or I can just sell it, or somebody say, okay, I don't have the money at this particular time, can I pay you back? So you have to take that chance, give them a DVD. And a lot of times, like when people say that, they don't have the money, they really don't have the money. If you give them the movie, and they'll come back, and they may even give you a $20 bill. And that happened as well. The movie was $10, and I was like, don't worry about it, just take the DVD. And they would come back and they would give me a $20. So those things, so we came, we wanted to, because my mission was to get the movie out. get the movie out. So, but I knew I had to make that investment back.
Right. So you knew if I do this, only this amount, I feel confident that I can get them out.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Your nickname is Dino?
Dino.
How did you get that?
I believe from my sister, her name is Coco.
Oh, okay.
From the Flintstones.
Nice.
Yeah. So Dino is like if someone calls me Dino, I know that's someone from way back then when I was growing up. Or my mom, or my mom, she calls me Dino. My brothers and sisters, my cousins, they all call me Dino. Or anybody that's a friend that calls me Dino is someone I grew up with. Yeah.
Inglewood, Chicago.
Chicago.
Okay.
Yes.
And so when did you start the film festival there?
We started in 2000, oh my God, 7 years ago, which will be 2010. So 2010 is when we had a ribbon cutting event. And we screened like my old films. We did the ribbon cutting event, and then the next year was our first festival. And then where we had film festivals from films from all over the country that came in. And one of the things that we did was in order to get, because it was very important for us to, especially when we knew filmmakers from different parts of the world were coming in to screen to the screening, is to make sure that we packed out the theater. So what we would do over the longest period of time is we would give tickets away. We would work with different organizations within the Inglewood community. And what they would do is that they would give out tickets to the different residents in the Inglewood. And that's how we were able to continue to pack the theaters. But again, we had to pay for the theater. We had to pay for travel and things like that because we want to bring the filmmakers in, we want to bring in guests in. So it got pretty expensive, but we want to bring it back either this year or next year. We definitely want to bring the festival back. Yeah.
And how many seats did you have to fill?
300.
Oh, 300.
Yes.
Okay, wow.
It was like the total was, to be exact, it was like 297 at the it was at the Ice Theater. And another thing too is that Inglewood, there's no actual movie theater there. So we had to do the actual screening of the films in the Chatham area, which is kind of next door to Inglewood. But when we did our workshops, and all of our workshops and our panels, all of those things were free and free to the community. And so, but we kept those things in Inglewood, like at the library or at local schools. So we kept those things in the Inglewood community.
So aside from your love of film and storytelling, why was it important to you to do this community-based film festival?
Because I knew that if you look at the Inglewood community, we know most people, we hear about the violence in Chicago. And I'm sure like whenever I travel, no matter where I travel throughout the, not just the country, but throughout the world, I go to Belize, and I travel to Belize a lot. But people always talk about, when you tell them you're from Chicago, they talk about the violence in Chicago. So they make you think that, you come out and it's like doing the Al Capone days where people get shot up, which is not true. And so what was important to me is to change the image of the Inglewood community. And what better way to do it? We know as filmmakers, right? We know how the media, how film, how music, how entertainment is a very, very powerful tool. So what we wanted to do is just use the film festival. We want to use the films by doing the workshops and by screening positive films and positive content, to use that to change the image of the Inglewood community. So that's always been our objective. That's still our objective, is to change the image of the Inglewood community. Yeah.
Have you always been an optimist? You seem like a positive person from the short time I've met you here and our email exchanges. I know you had a nice saying in your email. It's just gives an impression that you're positive and you're open to just different input from other people.
Oh yeah, you have to be. I think a big mistake that here's what I think right now, because especially as filmmakers, right? Because we control, like filmmakers, we have so much control, which we really don't understand the power that we have. So when you go to the movies, right, a lot of, we set trends. If you look at Boys in the Hood, if you look at Minister Society, if you look at Goodfellas, right? People like even rappers, right? Rappers take their names off of movies or off of gangsters from different movies because what we do is so powerful, And so I know that as a filmmaker, I have to be positive. Because if I don't, then what I'm doing is I'm just aiding in the destruction of humanity. And I never wanted to be involved in that. I always wanted to say, I want to stay positive. I want to put out positive content. And I've been offered for so many times to do negative things. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. And so as filmmakers, we just have to be true to us and be true. But we just can't do things just for money. Because at the end of the day, we doing things, or we just can't be in this business for money. Because we be doing things and we won't be our souls won't be satisfied. What we may be passionate about filmmaking, but if you're taking your passion, if you're doing things that you don't want to do, you're losing your soul. So I always wanted to be positive. I always wanted to put out positive content. Now, am I always positive? No, it's something that, of course not, because I'm human.
Sure.
And so again, but I always have to even remind myself, like, this is what I wanted. I mean, it's always been tempting. It's always been tempting because, especially when you're in a position when you have to pay your bills, and it's always happens. You have to pay those bills, and somebody comes with an offer, but an offer that's not that's going to challenge you morally, and you have to say, no, I can't do that. Those were chances, those were things I've had to turn down because of that. I'm not just going to put out any type of images and things like that. Because we have to, we have a duty as filmmakers. And our duty is, first we have to be true to us. If you want to be in this business to make money, okay, go ahead, be in this business to make money. There's plenty of money to be made, but what are we at the end of the day? 10 years from now, 20 years from now, how are we going to change the condition of this world? And so many times people just want to step labels on people. We don't want to have real dialogue. So instead of having real dialogue, we just put labels on people, which is very unfortunate.
Yeah, and I think we're more divided now in recent few years, and it, not just politically, but just in many different ways, and it's definitely apparent, and I've read articles too that we're just more divided in beliefs or and it's a shame, because you would think that just with social media and everybody's access to the same tools, that there would be sort of an evolution where we could just be, I don't know, everybody would be sort of satisfied with their own life because they can put something out there, whatever their passion is, and not think that they have to wait for someone to, quote, help them. But yeah, I definitely see that. And I see it in the comments too. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you can see it in other videos comments, and just how divided we are right now.
Yes.
So, would you say you've always been a positive person, or like this sort of open thinker, or did something happen in life that kind of changed you in that direction?
I think I have always, I think this is why I love my mother so much. Like, my mother is a diehard Christian, point blank. She goes to church every Sunday, but she never forced any type of religion on us. And I never told her this, but she never forced us to go to church. She never forced religion on us. So I think that had a lot to do with being a critical thinker. And then when I would ask questions, I remember when I had to be like 7 or 8 years old, and I had asked the pastor a question, the church I went to, and he told me never to question God. And I was like, ooh. But I was young, and I knew that something is wrong here. You're like, why would God not want us to question him, if he's secure in his word. So, but my mom, so I always been a critical thinker, and since I can remember. And I never try to rush into judgment, like ever trying to rush into judgment. I have to think about it. Like, when things happen on social media, I'm not the person to just post or repost stuff, I have to research it to see, is this stuff is real? You know, is this like, even when President Donald Trump tweets and people share his tweets, I have to go to his page and see, okay, is this a real tweet? You know, and so we have to search out things and to make sure that things are actually, like, especially as filmmakers, because we are storytellers, we should always research something before we just put it out there. You know, because again, we hold so much power, like artists hold so much power. So, you know, we're very familiar with how China changed because of their artists. You know, China was a country that was, you know, and was in, you know, opium and the prostitution, but what they did was they brought their artists together. They said, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna use art, we're gonna use entertainment to change the condition of the Chinese people. And look at China now as a superpower, you know? And so as artists, right, what we can do is, we have to come together, and we have to, because, you know, we have to come together and we have to start using our gifts and our talents to change. We could change, not only America, but we can change the entire world if we just start to put out more positive content. You know, content that show more people, content that shows love, content that shows more unity, more respect, you know, regardless of what we believe in, you know, just respect people's ideas. As filmmakers, you know, that should be very important to us, just to show, you know, just to do more positive. Because the thing is that you have so much stuff that's so negative that people are looking for more positive content. Now, again, let me explain to you. Here's the interesting thing. So we hear all the time how Black films do not sell overseas, which is totally false. This is what people are looking for. And you know what, Black Panther proved that this is false, but what we have done with our independent films, we have sold a lot of our films overseas. This is what people are not interested in overseas. They're not interested in the negative images that, as Black filmmakers, that we put out. If we put out positive images, positive story, I get so many emails from people from Europe, people from different parts of America, just saying that thank you. Like, we did a film called Black Coffee, and it's a couple of sites called it one of the most positive Black films ever made, right? We get so many people who just email us and inbox us through social media, just thanking us for putting out, I'm not talking about Black people, I'm talking about people from across all walks of life, thanking us for putting out a positive message and a positive images. And this is what people want to see. They want to see more positive content. And it's not that it's not that Black films don't sell overseas, but they don't want to see the negative energy, the negative images. They want to see positive images, because, you know, leave the negative images where you want to leave them at, but more people want to see the more positive stuff. And if we show the more positive images of Black people, you know, as Black filmmakers, then those films will do very well overseas. They don't want that type of stuff, you know, and we shouldn't have to give it to them, you know. We should, you know, so that's the thing.
Did you always feel this way? I mean, did you go through a phase where, as a teenager, let's say, you liked certain films, but then you realized, you know what, I'm not feeling how people are represented in these movies?
See, when I came up, I was a big John Hughes fan. He's from Chicago, love John Hughes. I used to sit back and watch his films and study his films. And one of the things is, I love the storytelling. I love the love stories. I can relate to those stories. So coming up, those are the type of films that I was influenced by. You know, then you had Spike Lee to come along. You know, more up, you know, in his earlier stuff, so many positive images. So now, again, I love me some Goodfellas. I love Martin Scorsese. I love Martin Scorsese, you know. So I look at those films, but I always knew, you know, but again, like my favorite filmmakers, like the John Hughes, my favorite, the Spike Lees, and I love Kevin Smith too. I know a lot of people talk about, you know, some of his films and how, you know, but if we carefully watch Kevin Smith's films, he's saying some really deep stuff in his films. especially Dogma. Dogma is like one of my favorite films. So yeah, I mean, but sometimes here, like even with, if you just take Dogma for example, like Kevin Smith's film. Kevin Smith gives you his films, like they're raw, there's a lot of profanity in them, but just listen to what they're saying. There's something, a message that he's saying that we can, like, for the people, for a certain type of generation. So he's giving it to you raw, but he's also putting something in it that you can take and make you think. Because Dogma is great. It's an amazing film. Yeah.
It's funny because he speaks like that too.
Yeah.
He may be funny and sarcastic, but there's like a point to what he's trying to make. So,
yeah. I love his interviews. Love them. Yeah.
Yeah, he's very entertaining.
Yes.
We'll go back to your first film, Why Men Cheat, in 2005. So how did that movie's success impact you getting your next film project off the ground?
Yeah, so it was a while. My first film that I ever got distribution for was a film called Black Butterfly. It was a film we made for less than $10,000, and E1 actually put that film out. E1 is a major company, but a guy named Ellen Blackwell he saw the trailer. I sent him the trailer. He said, "Oh, I want this film." But before then, we did a film called again, my first film, Why Men Cheat. I Used to Love Her. Holla If You Hear Me. With those films are the films that, from Why Men Cheat, we took that money and we invested into Holla If You Hear Me. We took that money and invested into I Used to Love Her. And when we did I Used to Love Her, that film right there, it screened, and we did that film for $3,500. And it was in like 10 film festivals. And when I went to the film festivals, I didn't just go there just to screen the film. When I would go there, I would have DVDs made up. I wasn't even thinking about distribution. I was just thinking about selling DVDs. And it wasn't until we came and did Black Butterfly is when, I said, okay, if I have to release this film on my own, then I would do that. But what we did was I sent the trailer to Ellen Blackwell at E1. He said, I want that film. And then from that film, then we got distribution for Holla If You Hear Me. Then we got, because of the success of that film. And so what happened was with Black Butterfly is E1, like the first week, they had to reprint. They had to print more DVDs up because they all sold out in the stores. It was in Walmart and they all sold out. So they had to rush and print more out. Because I told them, I was like, look, I have an audience out there. And what we're gonna do is we wanna promote this film. So you all have to print out more. I think they print out 5,000 copies the first time, which I understand, they wanna be safe. And so like the first week or so, those were all gone. And then because of the success of Black Butterfly is when we got distribution for I Used to Love Her. Then we got distribution for Holla If You Hear Me. And from the success of that one film.
And so you made it for $10,000? The one that was in Walmart?
Yes, it was like for $9,500.
And how many locations did you have?
We had a total of, I think, like 8 locations.
Wow.
Yeah, 8 locations. But this is how we would do it. The way we would shoot this film, we would shoot on weekends because people work. So we would shoot on weekends. Then we would take one day. So we would shoot a 12-hour day on a Saturday and Sunday. And on Friday, what we would do is we would just take one scene and we would just shoot that scene. And we would just, and that's how we got the film made over like it was like 6 weeks. And yeah.
So that's how you were able to keep it so low.
That's why we were able to keep it so low. And also, here's the secret. The secret is you have to work with. I know it's difficult in LA because when you talk about locations, because people are familiar with how much money people pay for locations. But Chicago is pretty different. So in Chicago for us is that I always shoot at, like, a lot of the film was shot at my mom's house. I shot some of this film at my auntie's house. And then a lot of the stuff a lot of exterior stuff, where we didn't need permits to set up. Or we would go to a park and shoot. Like the park that we shot at is a park that I grew up in, like playing basketball and baseball and things like that. So we would go to that park and we would shoot things. So we didn't pay a lot of money for locations at all because we use friends and family's locations. And that's another thing we should do. You know, just look at your friends, ask your friends as far as like, you know, can you shoot at their home, you know, and try to do it. You like, say for instance, if you shoot at someone's home, you know, just be respectful of their home. Maybe donate $100 or $150 towards electricity, you know. And I know in LA it's kind of expensive. Locations are very expensive, but you know, just like if you're shooting somewhere else, you know, just ask the person if you can just, you know, shoot there, you know, and they're open to it.
What do you think is the best way for a filmmaker who's made a movie, let's say, cost $20,000 to make that money back in today? So probably not with DVDs as much, maybe, I don't know.
I think the best way for filmmakers to make a movie, if they made a movie for $20,000 to make that movie back, is, say for instance, if the budget is $20,000, rent out theaters, right? So say for instance, and keep the price very low. So if you rent out a theater, I know in Chicago I can rent out a 300-seat theater for like $800. If you do that 4 or 5 times, you made your money back, you know. And then what you want to do is you always want to make sure that when you're doing your marketing, try to do more so towards social media, because it's free. You're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you're on LinkedIn. So target your audience there, and do group pages and things like that. And so make sure that try to sell the tickets for like $10, you know, $10 to $12. Don't try to go $20, because it's easier to get $10 or $12 out of a person than $20. And people again, they will support you. And don't get frustrated. And I think a big mistake as filmmakers, what our frustration comes in at, is that we look for support from our friends and our family. Don't do it. The people who are going to support you are the people like your people that you don't know, like lawyers, doctors, school teachers, firemen, police officers. Those people, everyone loves movies. So go to those people, you know. But we wanna market towards other filmmakers. No, don't do that. don't. Other filmmakers are going to support you if they want to support you, and don't get frustrated when other filmmakers don't. Why are we promoting to other filmmakers? Those are not the people. That's not our audience. Our audience is people who are not filmmakers, people who just want entertainment. Those are the people that you market to, like people who have no interest at all in the film business, you know. And then what happens is that those people are going, that crowd, like, give you a perfect example. When Tyler Perry started to build his empire, he didn't market towards other filmmakers or other playwrights. He marketed towards the church. And those church people, they weren't interested, they just want entertainment. You know, and he built an empire because of people who just wanted to sit down at plays. They didn't want to be actors, they didn't want to be directors, they didn't want to be producers, they just want entertainment. So those are the people that he was marketing to. So that's what we have to do as well. So I hear a lot of filmmakers get frustrated and say, you know, I don't get the support. Well, because you're marketing to the wrong people. Market to those people, again, to the firemen, to the police officers, to the teachers, to the janitor, to just the everyday normal human being who doesn't want anything at all to do with the film business but to enjoy a movie. Sure. That's our audience.
It's a little tricky here because a lot of people do these dual, I mean, there's people that work, you know, in all facets of LA, and then they're also an actor on the side, or, you know, they're going on game show auditions, and then, you know, they're a fireman by day or whatever, you know. So there's so, you know, but I hear what you're saying. And I find that very interesting that you said not to friends and family, or let's say college alumni or whatever. So can you talk about, did you have to learn that the hard way?
I did.
Oh, okay.
Oh yes, definitely. This is all through trial and error.
Okay.
Like my first film, like I would, you know, I would text my friends, I would text my family members as far as tickets. I was like, okay, this is not working. You know, so what I would do is another thing what I would do is I would get, in Chicago we call them pluggers. I guess you all call them like pluggers, which are like flyers.
Oh,
But we call them, in Chicago we call them pluggers.
Interesting.
So they're like, you know, a copy of the DVD with all the information on there, and I would go to the different bus stops. So in Chicago, I'm sure they have them here. People drive and they park their cars in these lots, and they take the train to work, but they would do this out in the south suburbs. So the people out in the south suburbs, who are coming to the city, you have all these different lots. So I would get like 10,000 flyers made up, and what I would go is during that time when they're at work, I would put the flyers on their cars, and that's how we would, those are the people that I would hit. But it was because I knew, but it took me a long time to find out that you just can't promote to your friends and your family and other filmmakers. Promote to the people, not your friends, because they're gonna if they're gonna support you, they're gonna support you. And we shouldn't have to force them to support us, right? So if you have to force them, you want people who are going to sincerely and genuinely want to support you, not just support you, but you want them that come out because the entertainment is good, the quality is good. And so those are the people that we went after.
It's the saying, no man's a prophet in his own land. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's a biblical reference.
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. My grandmother used to tell it to me. But it basically means that like outside of your social circle, you can actually be perceived as doing more, and your whatever you're working on is viewed in a different light than within your own social circle or your sort of peer group, because they're like, oh, well, we know this person, so it's just viewed differently.
Yes.
And I think that's something a lot of artists deal with, whatever they're doing. Mm-hmm. And so your work is perceived differently from outsiders who don't know you versus people maybe you went to school with or friends or whatever, because they're like, oh, we know Mark, or we know Karen or whatever, but it's different when it's a stranger. Because then they say, oh, you're a filmmaker. Oh, okay, Mm-hmm. I think it's just different.
And here's the reason, I believe is the reason why. A lot of human beings, period, right? A lot of us, we really don't believe in ourselves. So it's hard to believe that a person that we know can actually make it or succeed in life. And because a lot of us give up on our dreams and our goals in life and, whatever what we want to do. And to actually know someone that's out there pursuing their dreams and out there pursuing their goals. Not saying that there's envy. Of course, whenever there's success, there's always going to be people who are envious of successful people. That comes with the territory. But a lot of us don't believe that we can actually know somebody that's successful because we don't think much of ourselves. If we think highly of ourselves and we value ourselves, then we know that our friend can be successful. Our friend can be successful because we know that we can be successful. So it's like, and we're working with one another. We're pushing one another. And that's what's missing across the board, is that we're not working together and we're not encouraging one another. I was looking at a documentary with, I think it was about, I want to say Steven Spielberg documentary. It was on Netflix. And Brian De Palma was saying how when he was shooting Scarface, Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese would come up to the set when he was shooting, and they would have his back. So if he's missing something, he's missing shots or whatever, they would let him know. Look, they would have his back. They would watch his back. And these are some of like Martin Scorsese, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, the most successful filmmakers probably ever. Because here I see these guys who work together and they made sure, look, this is my friend. I'm going to make sure my friend, I look out for my friend, and this is what we're missing. Like, just going on a set and that your fellow filmmaker is making a movie, just sitting back and and just observing. If you see something that's out of place, then you let them look. This is out of place. So that's what they did, And we can't, today we take those type of things for granted. Yeah.
Do you think that's a symptom of our times, or do you think that's just human nature, that some of us aren't hardwired? Not that we don't want to help people, but some people, they're just super competitive by nature. And it doesn't matter if they're friends, family, whoever, they've got to be like the top dog, and they don't want that place challenged. There's people like that.
That's today.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
today because and that's why a lot of people. Okay, so here's the thing: a lot of people, when we're in a certain position, we want to hold on to that position because a lot of us are, a lot of us are selfish. We feel that the sun is only able to shine on us, meaning that there are 7 billion people on this planet, right? There's enough room for all of us to have an audience. There's enough room for the sun to shine on all of us because the sun does shine on all of us equally, So when we're in a position of power, right? And we know and we see somebody that's out here just doing it, constantly doing it, how can we just sit back and not, I know we dealt with this thing help early on, but not even, I'm not gonna use the term help, but just reach down and say, okay, I'm gonna pull you up and I'm gonna give you a, not give, because if you out here working, that's something you earn. That's something you earn, and we're gonna make sure that you're taken care of. Because if I have a bowl of soup, I want to make sure that you have half of that bowl of soup, and that's how we stay consistent. That's how we stay on top, and that's how we and we just helping each other, not just working with one another. I hate to use the term help, but working with one another to make sure that all of us are eating, all of us are on top, and everyone is allowed to express their ideas and work their passion and their dreams, and everyone is successful. And it's no mistake that Steven Spielberg and George Lucas and Brian De Palma and Maya Scorsese, there's no mistake that over 40 years that these guys still are on top. They're still on top. It's not by accident. They help one another out. They work with one another, and they looked out for one another.
Do you think that the ability to, and we won't use the word help again, but I don't know if it's, okay, maybe it's altruism in the term of just not wishing somebody negativity or trying to sabotage somebody, because there's plenty of that in the world. Do you think that's the mark of a successful person? Is someone that's not as quick to sabotage? It seems like there's a lot of that in a lot of spheres, a lot of circles. Yeah. Is that human nature?
I don't think it's human nature to sabotage at all. I think it's human nature to help, or to, like, you see somebody is doing something, and because we by nature, I believe by nature we want other people to make it, but it's something in us that's like, oh man, I have to do this by myself, or I just have to have the light on me. So I don't think it's I don't think people, you do have people who purposely sabotage other people because I just have to have, but at the end of the day, I don't believe that they're going to stay on top lab for a long time. I'm talking about 30, 40, 50 years. Maybe they may do a period of 5 years, especially when because it's going to eventually come back. It's going to eventually come back, but I don't think people like that stay on top for long. There's no longevity in that at all.
3 things you wish you'd known before you made your first feature film.
Oh my God. That's all you need, 3? 3 things.
Yeah, more you can share, yeah.
Yeah, 3 things I wish I'd known before I made my first feature film. I wish let me say this. I think because I didn't know anything at all about filmmaking. I'm glad everything happened the way it did, because I think this is me, I think because I didn't know a lot, it made me want to prove so many people wrong and prove, just let people know, look, I can do this. I can do this. And the way I got into the film business is, not the film business, but into directing, was actually, I don't want to say by accident, but there was a director who promised that, I would write all these screenplays, and he promised that the screenplay that I optioned to him would be the next screenplay that he write. He didn't go through with his word, and at that particular time, I was emotional about it. I was angry about it. But what I did was, I went out and I made my first film. And as I look back, I'm thankful that he said no. Because had he made that first film, I would never probably got on the set and started to direct. But once I got on set to direct my first film, even though I didn't know anything about filmmaking, I didn't know what I was doing, I knew that this is what I wanted to do. So I don't think there's anything that I wish I had have known, because, you know, at that particular time, I can say, well, I wish I had went to film school, but I don't wish I had went to film school, because I love that whole process of learning as I go along, learning as I make different films, and because for me, making I was film school for me. And every time I would screen the film, I would get this constructive criticism. Not only did it make me a better filmmaker, but that criticism made me a better human being that I probably wouldn't have received if had I went to film school. So as I got that criticism, I didn't think I knew everything. I had to listen. So when you listen to and able to accept constructive criticism, that does something to you, to your character. You know, so a lot of us don't want to display our work because of that constructive criticism. You know, so I don't think there's anything that I wish I had known going to, you know, I don't think there's anything. I'm blessed to have took the road that I took as far as a filmmaker.
I mean, there's something to be said sometimes for not researching something and just trying it, as long as it's not life-threatening, because sometimes then you talk yourself out of it, and you go, oh, well, if I do this and it's not this, then this is going to happen. And so sometimes maybe it's better to just say, like you said, just do it, and then you kind of learn as you go. And with your first film, you said it was all wide shots. You didn't have any close-ups or mediums. And so, but if you had been too precious about it, maybe you wouldn't have made the first one, and then it wouldn't have led to the second one. I mean, I'm just theorizing here.
No, I see. The thing is that I think if I went to film school, I probably would have thought, okay, I can't make a film for $5,000. Oh well, if that first film it was made for $1,000, I was like, I can't make a film for $1,000. You know, because probably in film school, I don't know, maybe they're taught that you need a certain budget. But I wasn't thinking about budget. I thought, okay, I know I can make a film for $5,000. I know I can make a film for $10,000. So had I went to film school, I probably didn't have that. I probably didn't think that way. I probably, okay, I need $150,000 to make a film during that particular time, you know? And so that's why I'm saying I'm thankful that I went in that direction, because, you know, I'm saying I have $1,000, I'm gonna use this $1,000, I'm gonna make a movie, you know? And, even though everything was shot in wide shots, but I'm grateful, I'm thankful, you know, because the next one, we had our medium shots, we had our wide shots, we had our close-ups, and then, each project, I've seen it, grow and grow and grow. I'm only gonna get, I consider myself a student filmmaker because I'm always learning. I'm on Film Courage, I'm watching the interviews. I'm always consider myself a student filmmaker, and I would never ever escape that.
Good plug. Yeah. Thank you for. Can you do it one more time? Can you do it just one more time? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Thank you. So you live in Chicago. You're here in LA screening a film at the Pan-African Film Festival. Okay. And are you a full-time filmmaker in Chicago, or do you have another job?
I'm a full-time filmmaker in Chicago.
Wow.
This is what I do. This is how I provide for my family. I don't do anything else but make films. But again, I have a marketing company what I use to market my films. But the way I provide for my family is through filmmaking.
Filmmaking. Yeah. Okay. So for filmmakers who haven't figured out the business side yet, what advice can you give them, and how can you explain the different ways that a filmmaker can get out of having a 9-to-5 job?
Okay, great question. Here's how you can definitely get out. Okay, so say for instance, you asked the question as far as a filmmaker that makes a film for $20,000. You go out, you make a film for $20,000, and what you have to do is, okay, you have that $20,000. So you want to say, how can I make, within 2 months, how can I make $40,000? You want to do a certain amount of screenings so you can bring in at least $40,000. Now that $20,000, right, is going to go in. If you use that your own money to your own money, like $20,000 to make your film, or you use investors' money, then you know all the way off the top that $20,000 is going to go back to paying your investors back. So you have your investors, you pay your investors back, and you make so you have a profit of another $20,000. And what you do with that $20,000, if you have your home, your own place, your apartment, you use a portion of that $20,000 to pay your rent off for 6 months. So you know within 6 months that you're covered with your rent. So you have, say for instance, after you pay, you have another $10,000 left over. So you take another portion of that $10,000, right? And what you do is you have more screenings. So you may do another screening, and you may invest maybe $3,000 of that money into another screening. And don't look into always want to screen your film in LA. It's very expensive. Look at the southern places. Look at Charlotte. Look at Atlanta. Atlanta's pretty expensive too, but look at places like South Carolina, North Carolina, Nashville. Go to different places like that where they're looking for filmmakers to come in to screen their films, and they will support because no one else is doing this. And so if you take $3,000 of that money and you go out and you screen for like maybe 3 days, and you charging $10 a day at 300 seats, that's a total of $3,000 a night. That's now within 3 nights you're making $9,000. So that's a total of $9,000 you made within 3 days. You know, if depending on the number of seats that you go into the theaters that you're going to rent out. So you take that money, and then what you do is you take that money, you make sure you save. So you already know that your rent is paid up for 6 months, right? So now you have this film, and you're good for 6 months because now your rent is paid up for 6 months. Now that stress is no longer there, because a lot of things that keep us from actually being free is the fear and is the stress of not being able to pay our rent. If we know we have that 6 months, now we know that, okay, we have this film now that we have that we made for $20,000, right? Now we want to look at what are we going to do to get this film sold. So now you want to start pitching this film to, you have your Netflix, you have your Amazon, you have different companies who are always looking for content. Like, so you start to pitch the film. While you're pitching the film, you still have time. You can still be screening it too. So as you're screening your film at these different theaters, you're constantly making money. So you have to be very careful of the numbers. So a $20,000 film, you can make at least $100,000 if it's done properly within an entire year. And that's profit if it's done properly. But you have to hit these cities like the Nashvilles, like the Charlottes, like the South Carolinas, these films that, these cities that nobody is going to.
Interesting. So not New York, not LA, probably not Seattle.
I wouldn't do New York. I wouldn't do LA. I would do Chicago. Here's why I would do Chicago. Chicago got a lot of theaters, right? That's very affordable. You mean that, like, say for instance, I can screen at the ICE Theater, which is a theater in Chicago. They may charge me $800 to screen this film, but you're looking at a theater that sits 300 people. Charge $12, sell it out. That's a profit. If you do that 2 nights, or you do that for 3 nights, you just made what? Again, you made $9,000.
So I'm just curious, how are you getting people to go to these theaters if you're not from that area? Like if I were to go to Nashville and I wanted to buy some time at a theater, and then how am I getting the word out? Great
question. So this is what I normally would do, is like what I would do if I screen in Charlotte. If I take my film and I screen it in Charlotte, which we have done, I would partner with someone who's over a film festival, or someone who does marketing for like clubs and things like that, a promoter. So look up, because you have all these promoters, like, thank God for social media. So if you know someone that's a promoter in these particular cities, send them an inbox and say, okay, I have a film that I want you to promote, and maybe we'll do a 70-30 deal. I get 70, you get 30. Now, the promoter, right, who maybe promotes like for clubs or parties and things like that, they have something different that they can make money off of. So, and they are very open, because if it makes sense business-wise, they're open to it. So they may take your film and say, okay, I'm going to promote it for you in my city. I can get the people out. We do a 70-30 split. I take 70 as the filmmaker. You take 30. You got to give them some for their time. And they will get the people out. And they will get the people out to the theater, and you just do that, because there are promoters all over the country. You can find, in one city, you can find thousands and thousands of promoters, and just link up with a promoter or link up with a film festival, even like the smaller film festivals in those different cities. And most cities you have film festivals. Just link up with like the director of the film festival, someone who works for the film festival, and say, okay, I want to screen my film. Are you looking to make some extra money? And if you are, can we partner and you help me promote it? I'll come out and we do a 70-30 split. And most times, who's going to turn like if I have an audience already, a built-in audience that I'm promoting to, and I know I can get 300 people out to a theater, or even 200 people out to a theater. If I screen a film there, like that's just, that's money that's to be made. It's a business deal. Yeah.
Have you tried the same thing here in LA? I know you said you wouldn't do it, but I was just curious. Have you tried, other than with film festivals?
We have screened, like when I did Black Coffee, we screened that film in LA, but it was more for marketing and not to make money. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. But outside of that, like Chicago, Charlotte is a great place to screen. Mm-hmm. Your films at. Yeah. And people are looking, they're looking for more independent films too, and they're looking for more independent films to support. Yeah. So
when you did in LA, did you realize like it'll probably be a loss, but we're doing it just to get the word out? You were okay with that? Yeah.
Now here's the thing too, is that, say for instance, if you just want to get the marketing, or just say, okay, I screen my film in LA, to use that as a tool for the other cities, then you can do a screening in LA, knowing that you may break even, or you may make a profit, or you may not make a profit. You may lose. You may go in the red. But you can just say, I screen my film in LA. LA has a lot of power. Again, when you say your stuff is screening in LA, that's going to put the antennas up, and people want to know, okay, that's cool in LA. So we can use that as leverage. Yeah. Even New York, Chicago not so much, but LA, New York, you can use that as leverage for the smaller cities. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Okay, I didn't know that. How did you figure the business model out on how to make money with these small films?
I always knew that I had to keep the films at a very low. So for me, $20,000 was too much to spend on a film. In particular, especially if you don't have name actors in it. So I knew that I'm going to keep the films about $10,000. And from $10,000, I can make that back within a weekend, right? And so I knew that I'm going to keep these films low. I'm going to make that profit back, and I'm going to reinvest into doing more screenings. I'm going to, first and foremost, like by keeping it so low, you can pay, if you have investors, you can pay your investors back, whether it's $1,000, $500, whatever. But you can also, there's because a 90-minute film is a 90-minute film, right? So we know that they don't know what you paid to get the film made. They're not aware of that. You don't have to tell people, oh, I made this film for $20,000. No one needs to know that. But if a film like, let's say for instance, Black Panther, right, comes out, of course you have millions and millions of dollars for marketing, so you have people who want to rush, but it's still a feature film. A $20,000 feature film is a feature film. So what you're going to do is you're going to definitely use that 20,000. If you're going to shoot that film for $20,000, you have to look at it as if it's a studio, even though it's not a studio film, but you have to treat it like this is my studio film, because again, you are a studio. We are, we may not have the millions and hundreds of millions of dollars to do marketing or to do a film. To put in a film, but your $20,000 film, you have to use the same method, the same process that the studios are doing for this film. So you take it out, you screen it, you make money off of it, and you continue to screen it. You could, until it, because people want to see those independent films. Like Hollywood, people, the blockbuster stuff. So this is a perfect time for independent filmmakers, because there's so many, everything that's coming out of Hollywood is blockbuster. And not we want to see a good love story. We want to see a good dramatic film, a good story, without things having to be blown up. So this is like the perfect time for us, and then you take it to those small cities, you take it to those, and just screen your film. And that's how you make money. You can make a living off just screening your film.
Have all of your films made money?
All of them, every last one of them. Yeah, every last film that I've ever made, all made a profit. Because we make them, so like, if I'm making a film for $1,000 or $10,000, if I can't make a profit off that, I don't need to be making films. Like, if I make, like, the movie I made, Black Butterfly, which we made for less than $10,000. Like, we sold it, we made money off of it, and they put it out, again, like, they put it out. And I can say this now, but I was still selling DVDs. I was still like, if you keep, I had I was still doing screenings of the film. That's how I was able to make a living, is by screening these films, is by making DVDs, you go online. It just don't depend on like the YouTube and what you call it, the Apple and all that. You have to go out and you have to screen your film. We have to make money off of our films. Yeah.
So now there's this new term, hustle life. It's been around for a little bit, and we think of all these influencers and stuff. But it sounds like you have been doing this for years in terms of just going out there, selling stuff yourself. We saw it a lot in the music world, especially back with CDs. Do you think filmmakers today have enough of that hustle life in them, or they view it differently, like, I'm just gonna give this to a distributor. I made my film, I spent whatever time with it, 3 years with it, now I'm giving it to a distributor, they can take care of it. And is that a mistake to think like that?
No, it's not a mistake. Here's why. I think it depends on how much the distributor gives you for your film. And we also have to keep in mind that most distributors are not going to be honest with us. So say for instance, if you make your film for $100,000 and the distributor, and you give your film away for free, like, you have to be very careful and make sure that an attorney looks over all of your paperwork. Just don't give your film, you just can't give your film away for free thinking that a distributor is going to be honest with you and going to be cutting you a check. So you always have to leave room. Like, if say for instance, if you make your film for $100,000, if you decide, okay, I want to give, just to get your film out there, I want to give the distributor the film just to put out because I wanted to see it in Walmart or I want to see it on Netflix. But if you're not getting any money for it, you have to leave room. Whereas you can do theatrical, or you can do DVD. And you can do streaming, meaning that, you have to leave room so it's a partnership. If you want to take my film, okay, you can take my film, but I have to have the ability we can do this together. Meaning that I'm going to distribute the film as well. You can take it to whoever you want to take it to, but this is a partnership. And we just can't give our films away to people.
Sure.
But if we do give it away, meaning no money up front, then you have to have the ability to make DVDs, streaming on your own, and fight for it. I mean, if the distributor is honest with you, they'll give you some money up front for your film,
But going back to the term hustle life or whatever it is, just work ethic, do you think that artists have enough of that in them?
No, and here's the reason why. I think with the whole thing with the streaming services now, that people will rather sit behind a computer and just put it on Amazon Prime, because you can put it on Amazon Prime and you can market it on your social media, and you don't have to do a lot of hustle, or you don't have to do a lot of legwork. I think that's a big mistake. Now, if you do put it on Amazon Prime, what you have to do is you have to still go out. You have to go out to events. You have to have some, like what we call in Chicago, flyers or pluggers, and give it to people, and make sure people are actually going on Amazon Prime, because they're not going to know it is on there. Even if you have 5,000 followers on Facebook, it's only going to reach about 20 people. I mean, that's the way they have it set up. So but you can also spend a couple of dollars with Facebook to promote it. But go out and talk to the people, go out to these different events. Every time an event is going on, or even a party is going on, go out and just give out pluggers or flyers. You have to market. So we just did, for Black and Privilege Volume 1, we did a billboard, and we have a billboard in the Inglewood community, which is right off the expressway. So you have thousands of people who are driving through, and they're seeing this big billboard. So we have to, but you have to leave room for marketing dollars. And that's the thing we don't do, is that we don't leave that room for marketing dollars. So if you raise $20,000 to shoot a film, make sure you're trying to raise another $5,000 to market the film. Because worst thing is, you want people not watching your film. Marketing is very, very, very important when it comes to our films, and we should know that, like marketing. So I don't think that filmmakers have that hustle that they did back, during like the 90s and the early 2000s, because of the streaming services. Right. You want to sit behind a computer, upload it, and then let it do what it do. But no, you have to still do that legwork. Just like if you drive down the different Hollywood Boulevard, you drive down LA, downtown LA, you still going to see billboards. You're still going to see the posters up, because there's somebody who's out there actually putting those posters up, and it doesn't take a lot of money to do that. Well, if you in that aspect, yeah, but we can still do that, because it didn't take us a lot of money to put up a billboard.
So there's a company that you work with, or that you've worked with before, to do the billboard, and then what were you advertising Black and Privilege for? Like the screening or the?
Just the movie.
Just the movie.
Just the movie. So when people drive past, it's just the billboard. They just say, remember the movie I think it was called Forgetting Sarah Marshall or something like that? Mm-hmm. Remember when, I think it was like 10 years ago, when that movie came out, and it was just like, you saw the posters all over the place. It was like, what the hell? Like,
right, I think I remember that.
Yeah, like, what is this? You know what I'm saying? Like, people want to know it was just Forgetting Sarah Marshall, something like that. It was just like, just the words, and people went, what's going on? Who is it? What? That's what I was thinking. We're like, what's going on? When is this happening? So that's the same thing I want when I was put the billboard up, when people drive past and they see Black and Privilege. I want, what is this? Like, when is it coming out? I want them to ask questions, because when they start asking questions, then now you're in a conversation with them, and then and that's what you want. You want that conversation.
So it wasn't even a direct call to action for them to go to a certain site or what. It was just to pique their curiosity a little bit.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Drop that in the subliminal, driving past, they say, oh, okay, and they're always gonna remember it. So say for instance, if something comes up on their social media, or they go and they Google it and say, because I'm sure a lot of people are Googling and say, okay, where can I find this at? Mm-hmm. Because again, the title is a very catchy title, mm-hmm. and they want to, where can I find this? So that's what our objective is, to get people online and to Google the Black and Privilege movie. Right. Yeah.
Forgive me, Mark, I've only known you for a few hours here, but I'm going to ask you kind of a personal question, and I hope you won't get too mad at me.
No.
What's the most broke you've been as a filmmaker?
The most broke I've been?
I realize that's a personal question.
No, that's not a personal. I mean, the most broke I've been was when you have to look underneath your car to find change for coffee or gas money. When you have to say, when you have to, man, I've been pretty broke as a filmmaker. Especially as a screenwriter, and not having my and not before as far as directing, but as a screenwriter, that you have that mentality where somebody's going to pick up my work or somebody's going to do my film, and So I mean, there are times when you have to scrape under your car and say, okay, for some change or whatever. But that's just part of you evolving, and you growing as a filmmaker and as a entrepreneur and as an artist. Is you evolving.
So do those times stay with you, or
No.
Oh, they don't? I
No.
mean, in terms of in your mind, not like you carry out that reality, but I mean, does it stay with you in your mind, or you always remember that?
No, I do not. I mean, it's not that I always remember it. Is the fact that I'm thankful for those times. I'm thankful. Especially when I had the pager business and the cleaners, and I decided, okay, this is the film business what I'm going to do full time, and close those down. And plus, the pager business was getting old. No one's buying pagers anymore. And those earlier times, it was like, those earlier times were tough, but it's something that you had to figure out. You had to figure out, okay, I'm gonna sell my DVDs, because initially, let me tell you, right, initially when I did my first film, I was like, I wasn't thinking whether I wasn't thinking if I wanted to sell it to a distributor or I wanted to go door to door. So it was something that's like, okay, I did this with the pager business, then I know I can do it with the film business, But I was just wanting to make a movie. That was my main objective, is to make a movie. It wasn't just to, but I knew that at the end of the day, in order to make this movie, that I know, okay, this movie has to make me money in order for me to survive. So, you just gotta, those times were tough, but I just had to adjust and go out there and go out there and hustle and sell those DVDs.
Did you ever have anything shut off?
No.
That's good.
No.
I went without a phone for a few years when I was in my early 20s, so I know what that's like. So I wasn't sure. It was actually kind of freeing not having a phone.
Yeah. So here's what I would do. I would as long as I have DVDs, I can go out and make money. So I can go out and sell. As long as I knew this is like the DVDs for me was money. I'm going to take if I'm like I'm going to take 20 DVDs. I'm just going to go out and I'm going to sell those DVDs. But I have to sell for $10 or $5. I'm going to sell those DVDs. So that was money for me.
So most independent filmmakers, I would say, would probably lose money on their projects. What do you think is the reason? Is it the mindset? They're not doing the proper research on what the budget should be?
The budget. Yeah, you have to make sure, like if you're doing a film for $1 million, you can't use your friends. You have to make sure you use actors that's going to get you that $1 million back. If you do so when I was doing films for $20,000 or $10,000 or $1,000, I used local actors who didn't have a name. But when I decided, my first film that I actually got, which is a film called Black Coffee, where I actually got money from RLJ, which is Bob Johnson's company. We didn't shoot that film for a lot of money, but I knew that they knew that I just can use those same actors because it would be a hard sell for BET or to TV One or whoever. So we needed to use name actors. So if you're gonna do a film for $500,000 or even $100,000, you have to make sure that the most important thing for me was, or the most important thing for filmmakers, is make sure that we are able to pay back our investors. That's very important. Now, if the investors know and and feel that you can pay them back, they will invest. And then what you can do is you can form a partnership where they can continue to reinvest in your films. So again, if you're making a film for $100,000, make sure that you use at least two names, that's at least going to get you that money back, so you can pay back your investors, and also you can make some money. Yeah.
Can you explain how named actors get you money back?
So the way it works is this. So if I'm gonna use Black Coffee as an example. So I'm gonna tell you the budget and everything. So that movie was made for $120,000. So in that movie we did we had Darren Henson, we had Gabriel Dennis, we had Erica Hubbard, Lamar Walker, and Christian Keys. Those are our main 5. And these are named actors. People know them. You may not know their name, but if you see their face, you know them. And they were BET friendly. Like BET, like you show those people to BET, they know them. So when a movie like that was made for $120,000, when you sell it to BET, you make it $250 back. You make it a little bit more back. That's the way you're making your money is television. It's television now. So that's how you get a movie, and you have to do your research too. Now, if you're doing a horror film, know the actors that are good when it comes to horror films, and know who's picking up horror films, whether it's what networks are picking up the horror films, and whether it's a romantic comedy, know which networks or which distribution companies are picking up romantic comedies, know which actors that they like, go on the different websites with the different distributors, and see the movies that they're putting out, and see the movies that are hot. So say for instance, and go to the different television shows and see what television shows are hot. And a lot of actors who are doing TV, they want to do feature films. Of course they do. So if you go on to, if you see you go to one of my favorite shows like This Is Us. If you have a great script, what you want to do is you want to contact the agent and tell them what the script is about. You want to make an offer to I say for instance, one of the actors from This Is Us say, I want you as the lead role. So that television show is hot now. Everyone loves This Is Us. By using one of those actors from This Is Us, and you keeping the budget very low, between 150, 200, depending, you may want to do a partnership with those actors and say, okay, I want you to come in, I want you to be the lead, and I want you to be the producer as well. And as a producer, I'm going to give you some money up front, and then you want to make money on the back end once we sell it. So you use those actors' name in order to sell your project. So who's going to turn down the Sterling Brown from This Is Us? Who's going to turn down a movie with Sterling Brown in it because he's so hot right now? So you go and you just do your research as far as what television shows are hot, and then what you do is you reach out to those different actors who maybe not doing a lot of feature films, and and when they have a break from shooting like a show like This Is Us or whatever show they're shooting. When they have a break from shooting from one of those shows, they may have the time to shoot your feature film, but do a partnership with them. Like Gabrielle Dennis and I, she just played Whitney Houston on the Barbara Brown story. Like when we did the movie My First Love, it was a partner. She came on as an executive producer, and it was like a partnership. So you want to do a partnership with these different actors as well.
How did you learn that type of partnership where you felt like you could ask a named actor or recognizable face to be an investor as well? Well,
because actors are they want to produce more. Most actors, if you talk to them, and if the script is really good, and if they have the time, and if it makes sense for them, they would definitely take the time and read it. And if they like it, they would join on. And they would come on as a producer and as an actor, or you may want to attach them to the project. And if you attach them to the project, that can get you go out to investors and get the money from investors. Say, okay, I have such and such actor attached to this project. Maybe you can go to a company like HBO, Showtime, whatever, and get maybe I'm just tossing some companies' names out, or Netflix or Amazon Prime, and get an MG, which is a minimum guarantee, and say, okay, I have this actor attached to it. to this project, and you go to these companies and say, can you give me a minimum guarantee that said that if we finish this project with this actor attached, that this is the amount of money that you're going to give me for this film. So a network or a television, a network or a streaming network like a Netflix may do, there are no promises or guarantees. What they may do is they will give you a letter, an MG, which is a minimum guarantee letter, saying that based off the production value, based off these actors or this actor, if you deliver this film to us, we'll give you a certain amount of money. And what you do is you take that letter to investors to say, okay, and you take that minimum guarantee letter, you take the attachment letter from that actor, and you can take that to like investors and say, okay, I can make this movie with this actor, and Netflix or Amazon or Hulu said that once the film is finished, the production value is there, if this actor is on board and stars in this film, that they will give me such and such and such and such. And that's how we got my film Black Coffee made. Because what happened was, I called up RLJ. I was like, I want to do this film. It was like, who do you have attached? I had a relationship with Gabriel Dennis. I had a relationship with Lamar Rucker. And it's funny because I met Lamar Rucker at a film festival in New York a long time ago. I was like, we got to work together. So we exchanged numbers. It was years later that I reached out to him. I got an attachment letter from Gabriel Dennis, Darren Henson, Lamar Rucker, Christian Keys, and Erica Hubbard. And Erica Hubbard is someone I've been knowing for a long time. So once I got that attachment letter from them, I took that attachment letter, I sent it to RLJ Entertainment. Within 24 hours, less than 24 hours, they say, okay, we want to make this project, because they had actors that attached to it. So if you get that attachment letters from the actors plus the distribution company, you go to investors and say, okay, this is how much money. So say for instance, if they say they're gonna give you $500,000 back based off this actor, you go to the investor, you say, okay, I'm going to make this movie for $350,000. I need $350,000 to make this movie. So you make the movie for $350,000, you take it to the network that's going to give you $500,000 for the film. Now you just made $150,000 profit. So now you can pay back your investors, and you can pay them back with a return on the investment. Yeah.
And that was your fourth film that you made?
That was film number, I think 4 or 5.
Black Coffee?
Black Coffee, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was that about?
So Black Coffee was about a story about a guy who he gets fired from his job, and he falls for this young lady who's an attorney, and who encourages him to go in business for himself. And so now, it played on BET for like 4 years, and it played on, now it's on Bounce. And so again, I own the rights to, also, you make sure that you own the rights to your content. That's very important. Based off owning the rights to your content, you can always get paid off your content. If you don't own the rights to your content, someone else is getting paid off your content. So don't sell your films to distributors. Never sell it. What you do is you license it. When you license it, do a 3-year deal. Sometimes they're going to ask for a 25-year deal. Sometimes they're going to ask for a 7-year deal. Do it 3 years. 3-year deals. And don't ever sell your content. Don't sell the content.
So what's the science behind 3 years? Because then if they want to renew it, you can do it, you can renegotiate at a higher rate?
Yeah, well, the science between the 3 years is that if you got 3 years, so within that 3 years, so many people have watched it, and it probably would lose its value unless like somebody from that film win an Oscar, so within 3 years is that, they can always, you can take that film within 3 years, and then you can resell it and continue to make money off of it. So you talk about 7 years, that's like them pimping your film within 7 years. And you probably would never see another dime, but that upfront money. So within 3 years, you can get that film back within 3 years, and you can resell it again.
Interesting.
Or not resell it, but relicense it. Yeah. So yeah, don't ever sell your content. Control your masters. Control your content, just license your projects out.
Have you ever relicensed one of your films?
Yes, we just recently relicensed Black Coffee to Bounce. So it was on BET initially. We licensed for 3 years on BET. Then we re-upped for another year with BET. And then after that license with BET, We did a renewal, not a renewal, but we licensed it to Bounce TV. So yeah, we've relicensed our projects quite often. And again, that's how the filmmakers make real money, is by controlling your content, not giving your content away to distributors for over 3 years. And that's therefore every time you license your project, you make money off of it. And every 3 years, you make money off of it.
And it's mostly in the front end of the deal?
Oh yes. Oh yeah. So most companies, what they do is they either give you something on the front end, or they pay in increments. So they may pay, say for instance, if they license for a year, they may give you, they definitely give you something up front, and then they may do something like every 3 months until it's all paid off. Yeah.
Interesting. Did the companies ever try to bully you into certain terms and try to steer you and say, well, it'll be better if we just wait till the end of this contract term and we'll give you a big lump sum then? Or?
Yeah, don't ever believe that. Unfortunately, a lot of distributors are not honest. So they give you promises that they definitely can't keep. So so that's what I'm saying. Like their job is to control your content, because they know it's to own your content, or to license your content for as many years as possible, because this is how they keep their company alive and afloat, by selling the rights to your film to the different television networks and things like that. And also what they do, they call it a 25% distribution fee. Don't ever do that. Distributors don't like it. I mean, distributors, they come, okay, so this is what happens, right? They say we're gonna do a 50-50 split. So, but we're gonna do a 25% license fee. So if you do a 50-50 split with the distributor, but before anybody sees any money, they have to take 25, that means that they take 25% of whatever is made off top. So what is happening is that instead of doing a 50-50 split, they get 75% and they're giving you 25%. That's why when you see that 25% distribution fee, don't do it at all, because you're not making any real money. And then another thing you have to be very careful of is the marketing fee. Cap off your marketing fee. So some companies say, okay, we're going to spend $80,000 or $100,000 on marketing. That's not going to happen. I'm not talking about like big major studios. I'm talking about we talk about films that are made for independent films that go to like smaller distribution companies. So if a distribution company telling you that they're spending $100,000 marketing, do not believe them. They put $75,000 down, but what they do is they do no marketing at all. So they can just do a couple of posts on social media, and they can write that stuff off. So the distribution fee for 25%, do not do that deal. Do not do the distribution fee, and do not, if you want to do a marketing fee, you want to make sure that where they give you a list of where they're going to market your film at. And not only a list, but how much they're going to charge. Like say for instance, if they're going to do some marketing for inside of the New York Post or inside of a magazine, but you want to know how much they pay for that marketing. You want to know, you want things itemized, or you can cap it off and say, okay, just marketing for $5,000, but I wouldn't do a deal with a company and they're going to take 25% distribution fee, or they're going to take $75,000, or they have marketing up in there, because and the reason they do that is because before you see a dime, they have to recoup that marketing fee. That's how they're able to not pay filmmakers, is because of the marketing, which they never do. Yeah.
Did you find that out the hard way?
I found it out the hard way. Oh yes, this distribution fee, and because I didn't, again, like when I did my earlier films, and like I had to find out the hard way. I was like, what the hell is the distribution fee? Well, that means that we charge you 25% just to distribute your film. I'm like, no. So you do find out the hard way. Marketing, you actually think that they're gonna put marketing into your film, but they're not. They're gonna do a couple of social media posts, and they can always, and that's how they get you. And then you would never see money from your films at all, and it's unfortunate.
Are you able to talk about one of the biggest financial risks you've taken with one of your films?
The biggest, let me think. So we just did Black and Privilege, which is, again, I went to investors to get money. We didn't spend a lot of money on the film. But again, that's money we still have to go back and pay the investors. So it's a risk. So I'm going to, with this particular project, I'm looking to license it out. So, to get the investors back their money. But say for instance, if no one wants to put it out, I already have a plan how I'm going to pay them my investors back. I always have a backup plan just in case the distributors say, no, we don't want to put it out. And one of the things is I always try to keep the budgets low. Whereas, okay, I know that by doing this, A, B, and C, that I can at least pay my investors back their money, and pay them back their money. So I don't go into it into making a film with a big risk because of the budgets that we deal with. So if I do a film for $5 million, you best believe it's going to be it's going to be a theatrical release, whereas it's going to be on a studio level. Because I'm not going to go out and get that type of money from an investor without any possibility of knowing how I'm going to pay that investor back their money. That's very important to me. We have to work with integrity, and make sure that we're able to pay, because like people back their money, and so that's important to me. I don't take those type of risks with other people's money. Yeah.
Do you pitch distributors an idea for your screenplay before you begin making the movie?
No, never. So what I do is, if I have an idea for a movie, I let it play out over and over again, and I write the screenplay out. I have me a good solid first draft before I even talk to any distribution companies or producers. And what I do is, once I have a solid first draft which people can read, but I know that I'm going to have to make changes to it, is when I decide this is when I'm going to pitch to a distribution company or producer. But I never ever pitch just an idea. Yeah.
Just to see, does this sound viable? Would you want to take this title on? You've never?
No.
Okay.
I've never. I'm sure there are filmmakers who have done that before, but I wouldn't feel comfortable pitching just an idea to a producer, or unless it's like a comedy show where it's something that's unscripted. Yeah, I've done that before, but an actual scripted feature film, no. I really don't. I wouldn't feel comfortable just pitching it out there like that. I have to have something, like when they say yes, I have to have something I can just send directly over to them, and so they can go ahead and read it, and so we can move forward. Yeah.
What are 5 things a distributor wants in a movie?
Cast, production value, and most importantly, what goes into the production value is great sound. And really, honestly, it's really they looking for cast and production value. Cast, long as you have a nice cast and you have good sound, they don't really too much care about the story. To be honest with you, they care more about who's in it. That's what they do. They're like, who's in it? That's like when I'm talking to distributors, and that's the first thing, who's in it. And if they don't care, they rarely asked about They want, after you talk about who's in it, what's the production, what's the budget, then they may say, okay, what is it about? But outside of that, I mean, I don't even think there are even 5 things that they look for. I think they like, okay, long as they can do a nice artwork for the film and put it out there, they're cool with that. They don't too much care about the story, unless it's like, they want to make sure that the production value is there, and they want to make sure that the sound is great, and they want to make sure that they have a cast that they can sell. But one of the most important thing is recognizable faces, the cast. More
than one, or would one do it?
It depends on the one, but I would say, to be on the safe side, definitely two, but with some solid actors around. But two name actors should do it, yeah. But like say for instance, if you do a film with Sandra Bullock, I don't think that she's gonna do a film where there's somebody that's not recognizable. She's not just gonna be just the only star in the film, because that's her value, and she has so much value. Now, say for instance, if she finds a script and the actors that are around her are so strong, and she said, I want to do this, but I want to be the only face. Of course, that you can sell a film with Sandra Bullock with her alone.
Sure.
That goes without saying. So it just all depends on that one particular actor. Yeah.
What did writing your first screenplay teach you about screenwriting?
Oh my God. So when I wrote my first screenplay, now this is the difference between writing a screenplay and when I was directing. Before I wrote my first screenplay, of course, Sid Fields is like, I don't think as a screenwriter, I don't think that you can really be a solid screenwriter if you haven't studied Sid Fields. But I read a lot of screenplays, tons of screenplays before I even started writing screenplays. I read Sid Fields' book, and I continue to read his books, but tons of screenplays. So when I first wrote my first screenplay, and I started, it never got produced, of course. And I took it out, people read it. It was pretty decent, but it wasn't good. It wasn't good. So it was only, after writing at least 10 screenplays before I actually decided, before I actually produced my own stuff. So, but it taught me a lot. Like that, I didn't play with at all, because I knew that in order to sit down and write, there had to be a particular structure. And that's one of the things too, is that one of the things that's very important as screenwriters and as filmmakers is that when you're pitching to producers, you have to make sure that the screenplay is properly structured. Use final draft, and you have to invest in we have to really invest in ourselves, in our craft. Go out and get the final draft program. Go out and read Sid Fields' book. Know how to read tons and tons of screenplays, and make sure that when you actually pitch to producers, that's properly formatted. There's nothing worse than someone saying they have an idea, and they pitch you an idea, but they want you to write the idea. Like, I have tons of screenplays of my own, or filmmakers or screenwriters want you to read their screenplays, and it's not properly formatted. I've had that. I'm like, there's no way I can recently someone asked me to read their screenplay. They had the heading and everything was written like a play. I was like, there's a difference between a screenplay and a stage play. And I don't think people understand that when you're writing a screenplay, it's formatted a particular way, because when you're dealing with different setups, those are very important. And I had to explain to the person who they was just reading. I was like, it's hard for me as a filmmaker, that's hard to follow when you don't have the proper headings on it, like the interior. I don't know where I'm at in the story. I can't follow it. Mm-hmm. But those are very important, because now this is one setup. So if we go outside, then that's a different setup. So you have to make sure that that is in the screenplay, is an exterior. So I've read screenplays when you didn't have that. I'm like, there's no way I can read this, and people don't understand, think they think you're hating because they're making it difficult to read their screenplays because they don't want to follow the proper structure. You follow the proper structure, then it will make it much easier for us to read your screenplay. Yeah.
How was it for you to get your first feedback? Because you talked about feedback earlier in the interview and how it's important. And was it the first time you showed someone your screenplay? What was that feedback?
Oh my God, it was the feedback I got was, it's something that you have to grow into and evolve. But again, like when somebody tell you this is not properly, this is not, you like, or the story is not connecting, you like, why? You get offended by it. But the thing is that you can't be, because if we want to grow and evolve, we have to listen to constructive criticism. And if someone is like giving you some constructive criticism, I know it's hard for us to deal with it. It was hard for me to do. It's like still today, when the people I have to be more open-minded, when reading my screenplays and people give me, I have to, it's difficult. You have to train your mind. Like I have to always train my mind that or keep telling myself that this is necessary. This is necessary. This feedback is necessary, because sometimes we don't want to, I was just watching the movie, The Wife.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Excellent.
Yes, excellent movie.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. And
when his wife gave him that feedback, he just blew up, right? Because he didn't want to hear that, he didn't want to hear that feedback, So, but at the end of the day, if he had listened to her, he probably would have become a better writer. And instead of her, I don't want to tell a story, instead of, her, what happened. But, we have to listen to those voices that give us that constructive criticism so we can evolve. I know it's difficult. So even today, I always have to, when I'm letting someone read my screenplays and they're giving me feedback on them, I have to keep telling myself over and over again, this is necessary. Like, I need this. And when that feedback is difficult to hear, just repeat, I need this. Because it's very important. It's to allow us to grow and for us to evolve, and just put the ego aside. We have to put that ego aside at all times, even while on set. Put the ego aside and listen to the people who can make our projects better.
You said structure is very important to you. Mm-hmm. So do you outline your screenplay?
I do. So I do outline. What I do is, like, again, before I even write anything or do any outlines, I know how the story is going to end. Start, I know how it's going to end. If I don't know the ending of a screenplay, I don't touch it at all. The story, I don't even start writing. So once I know how the project is going to start and how it's going to end, and then I start to do my outline. And once I start to do my outline, after I finish my outline is when I actually start to put the screenplay together. So I know, like, the first draft, we already know writing is rewriting. So I know once I get that first draft done, that's just, my first draft is really also my outline, and then I start to tweak and change scenes and change dialogue. And so I'm gonna do a couple of drafts of that, maybe not way more than a couple of drafts. So maybe, like, then once I get it to where I say, okay, I can stand to read this, I send it out to different people to read it, to give me feedback. Once they give me feedback, I go through and I clean it up again. And once I get like a nice polished script where I can send to producers, and that's what I would do. Then I would send it to producers. But knowing that this is still a script that more than likely I'm going to have to do some rewriting to. Even up until when we on set, there are certain times when, or do a table read. So I think what wasn't very important is, even before we start to shoot, is to do a table read so you can listen to the dialogue. And you don't necessarily have to do a table read with the actors that you're going to use, or the actors you're going to hire. You can use local actors, bring them in, and even before you get the budget, even before you send it out to producers, bring some local actors in and just let them, do a table read so you can listen to the dialogue. And by listening to the dialogue, then once you you finished with the dialogue? Ask the actors, what do you all think? Give me some feedback, and they would give you so the actors, they would give you some good feedback. And while they're giving you feedback, just always be taking notes. And then, some stuff you'll be able to use and some stuff you're not gonna be able to use. This is something that I do, is that now what I do is, even before I send anything out to the producers, I'm going to do a table read with local actors, which they're gonna know, look, I'm not hiring anybody. This is what I need for you all to do for me so I can listen to the dialogue. And they're happy to do that, yeah.
Yeah, I know in a lot of comments underneath some of your trailers say the great dialogue that you have. Okay. So do you read any of those comments? Like, do you go to some of your trailers and look at the...
I do. Yeah.
The comments.
I have to.
You have to. Okay.
Yeah. I think for me, I do. I go to Amazon. I go to YouTube. And I just read what people are saying, and what I do is I go and I click on. Say for instance, if it's on Amazon, you have like the 1, 2, 3, 4. I go to the worst and I read all of I don't even want to call it the negative comments. But the comments that are not I guess it's the ones, which is the so-called negative comments, right? So I read those, and I go to the 2, I go to the 3, I go to the 4, then I go to the more quote positive comments, that's in favor of the film. But I always want to know what people are thinking, what people are saying, and how, because with that, because these are people you don't know. Your mom, your sister, your friends, your family, and your friends, when they hate to hurt us, So when they're looking at our project, this is great, But the people who are actually not associated with us at all, they're going to give it to you in a raw. So I go and and some of the stuff is like, this hurts, but it's needed. It's needed. It's definitely needed. I think that we all should go and read those comments because to see what we can work on. Yeah. So I read those comments. Yeah.
When you do the table read, is this more like a working atmosphere, or do you make it more like a fun atmosphere where there's food and you're sitting around a table and people feel comfortable, or is it more this is business kind of?
So it's food. Oh yeah. So when we do a table read, I always have I have water, I have juice, I have order some pizza or whatever, some chips, and we're sitting around and because in Chicago, where I normally do my table reads at, the people that I bring in, these are friends too. These are people who I've been knowing for 10, 15 years in the business, who are just who just want to we all want to just help each other out. So we come in, we just sit back and they read the dialogue, and they're I need you all to be brutal. I need you all to be honest with me. And they tell me, they let me know how, what or where we missing things at, or, so that's how we able to evolve. But we make it a fun, and I think if by making it a fun environment, that it opens the actors up to be a little bit more honest. So if it's all about people being rigid or business, people could be a little bit more dishonest because they may be afraid that they don't want to hurt our feelings, or that this may be an opportunity for them to act in it. And if they give negative feedback, that you may not hire them, you may take it personal. So no, you can't take anything personal. So for me, I like it to be a fun environment so people can be, in my opinion, can be more honest when giving feedback.
Sure. Yeah. Suppose I'm reading a line that says Joe, you didn't call me last night, and it just doesn't sound right. Is the actor going to say, can I just stop here for a second? Can I say, what's up with not calling me? Or, so where were you? Instead, how are they giving you feedback? Are they doing it while they're reading, or? No,
afterwards.
Oh, afterwards.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the rule is to just read through one time?
Mm-hmm. And what we do is we read through one time, and while we're reading through, they're taking notes. And while they're taking notes, what we do is after they finish reading the screenplay, then we go through and they give notes. Now there may be a situation where we're reading through and somebody may stop and say that, stop and say that, but I don't stop them. I would and we may, but I don't, because I want to stay focused on finishing the screenplay. I let them say, but we don't stay on it for very long. So it's okay, we don't get back to that. So we make a notation and we come back to that. But we definitely want to stay focused and get done with the screenplay. And once we get done with the screenplay, and then, everybody's just like going in, digging in.
So when you do the note session with the actors, do you do it in order of the script? Like you start with the firch page and?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So what I do is first I say, okay, I allow them to, like I say, like go around the table. We go around the table and say, give me your feedback, and it's like, I don't too much like the positive feedback. I don't pay too much attention to the positive feedback. It's there, I have it there, but I want to hear the negative feedback or the feedback that I'm going to use in order to make the story better. The positive stuff, the stuff that's good in the screenplay is there. Cool, but the stuff that we need to change or tweak, those are the type of things that I like to hear or want to hear. So once we go around the table and everybody give their take on what they thought about the screenplay, how we can make it better, then we go, okay, we go through to the script and say, then I start asking questions. So what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? Do you like this or don't you? So I start to ask questions so I can get deep into the screenplay. And then once you start asking questions to the actors, it's like, I really need y'all to tell me, give me your honest opinion about this, and they open up and they give it to you.
And they say, I don't feel like my character would do that.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
you hear that a lot. I don't think you hear that. I don't think my character would do that. And I was like, oh, why don't you think that this character would do that? And here's why. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Then you go and you make that adjustment.
What are your secrets to writing great dialogue?
So this is what I do. I haven't done it in a long time, maybe in quite a few years, but what I would do is, in this aspect. So early on in my film career, I would ride the CTS with just the bus, the train, and I would just listen to people talk. And based off listening to people talk, I just get a feel of, like, I just sit there and just listen to people talk. And now I'm always listening to people talk, and like if I'm at a grocery store, it's always I'm eavesdropping, so I can know how like people I'm picking up on certain things, the flow of dialogue, and I'm just listening. So I think that's very, very important, is just to listen. And then also I think when it comes to great dialogue, like Kevin Smith is great when it comes to dialogue. I think his film should be studied because his dialogue is amazing. So definitely look at films with great dialogue, and but one of the most important things for me is to actually go to different places and always listen to when people talk. We have to listen, and whether it's the church, whether it's regardless of where you at, the grocery store, just listen to the conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you have time to go down to Venice Beach, but if you walk up and down that Strand area, wow, you will hear just like these snippets of the most fascinating conversation from people.
Ooh, yes.
Really, I mean, some of it I can't even repeat. It's so,
Coffee shops are great too.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
So I like in Chicago, I just sit there, like, and I'm listening to people. Like, listen, and I'm like, this is some interesting, and I pick up words, and like words like, especially from young people. And I hear like stuff and then another thing too is that like my sons, they're young, but and they say things that I'm like, what the hell, what does this mean? So I had to call my sons up and ask them, what does this mean? I see stuff on Facebook that people post and stuff I have I'm like, and I call my sons, I'm like, what does this actually mean? And they have to tell me the meaning to it. And if I want to use it, then those type of things I do as well. Yeah.
Have you ever written a screenplay where the intention was not to film it yourself? Was it to just write it for a director for hire to make, or another company to take on?
Yeah, my first 10 screenplays were like that. Was written for other directors to direct because I had no desire at all to direct films at all. It wasn't until I did White Man Cheat, and then everything after that is for me. It was like I'm going to direct this stuff. But everything that was written prior to me directing, my first feature was for other directors to direct. Because I never had the desire to ever direct a film until I actually got on the set for the first time, and I was like, oh, this is where I'm passionate about.
Were you nervous, or you just didn't want to have that responsibility of directing and managing 50 things at once?
Well, when I first got on the film set, days leading up to directing, I was definitely nervous. But it wasn't because I didn't want to manage. It was because I didn't have the confidence because I didn't know what I was doing. So there was that insecurity of not knowing what I was doing. We had all of those things going on. I was insecure. I didn't have the confidence that I have now because I didn't know what I was doing. But it's, and this has been quite a few films, whereas, it took a while for me to get the confidence to be able to actually deal with actors, the confidence to deal with, know how to set up, do my shot list and all that kind of stuff. So this was over a period of time. It was just, I didn't just direct my first film, then my second film, I knew it. This was, again, like for me, it was going through film school. Every project is going through film school. And so, but it was as I was learning, I was building my confidence up at the same time. Because again, if you don't know what you're doing, you're insecure about what you're doing. And I was I wasn't secure as far as being a director, because I didn't have the knowledge of what I was doing. So
I would imagine you were secure with sports. You said earlier in the interview that you played with baseball and basketball at this local park or something. So could you take that same feeling of confidence to this? Because in some ways it's similar. I mean, you're in a big arena, you're playing with a bunch of people. Some are on your team, maybe some aren't. And you're kind of moving around. There's a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah, but so when as it relates to sports, even because I played Little League baseball, which I wasn't very good at baseball. So when I played, I wanted to, because I'm a Cubs fan. I love Sean Dunston. He was like the shortstop for Chicago Cubs, and I wanted to play shortstop only because I saw it. I was like a Sean Dunston fan, and so when I got to Little League and I wanted to play Little League, they would hit the ball like, I don't know about this. So there was still an insecurity because I wasn't a good baseball player. But now basketball was different. I was pretty good at basketball, and I also wrestled. I was a wrestler in high school, and so I was pretty good. I was pretty good at wrestling. But even when I started wrestling, and I was losing, there was still that I had to get that confidence to know that I can win. So when it came to my second year, and so this is what my coach did, my wrestling coach did. Like my first year, I didn't go downstate. That was my first year wrestling, so I was losing a lot. But he took me downstate with the other city champions, so to help me to see how, as a wrestler, but that built my confidence up. I was like, man, I can do this. So the next year I placed in city, and the year after that I placed in city. So the next 2 years I went downstate. But I had to have my confidence built, and as a filmmaker, when I first hit that set, I wasn't sure of who I was as a filmmaker. There was that nervousness because, but at the same time, it was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I mean, I wasn't afraid. I overcame that fear, but I just needed more confidence, because I didn't have that. I liked the knowledge, but once I started to go and do it and do it more and do it more and do it more. Let's just give you an example, like when a father tells his son to jump off a porch and so he can catch him. So, and the son, he's hesitant at first. So he does it one time. Then the second time it becomes so natural for him to do it, or so easy for him to do it because he has that confidence that his father's going to catch him. It was the same with me. Like once I did it one time, okay, I like this. Did it second time, third time, fourth time, and with each project, I was building my confidence up because I was learning more, and I was open to again the constructive criticism. I was open to working with, collaborating, and listening to people who knew more than I knew, and I had to put the ego aside and say, okay, I want to learn this. This is what I want to do. So I didn't go on this film set with pride or with ego. I went on there because I knew this is something I love and this is something that I wanted to learn, you know. So I had to put all that aside, you know, and I had to overcome that fear. But that confidence I had to build my confidence.
Why is it important for you to produce everything that you write?
So I can control it. Not that I'm a control freak, but the thing is that I have to make sure that again I control the rights to my project, because not only would I benefit from owning my own content, but my sons would benefit and their children would benefit. You know, so that's very important for me, is for, you know, for when I'm gone, that my children and their children and their children are eating off or benefiting from the works that their grandfather, great grandfather put in. So I think that as filmmakers, we all should be aware that this is very important. We got to look down 50 years from now, that we want our grandchildren to say, okay, my granddaddy or my grandmother left me something that, you know, that I can be proud of. So that's why it's important for me to produce or control the content that I put out.
Was your relationship with your grandfather very strong? I mean, is that something that you remember and then you want to sort of emulate, or?
Well, on my mom's side, I didn't know my grandfather, and so it's tricky because on my father's side, I didn't know my biological grandfather, but I knew the man who married my grandma, and I didn't know that he wasn't my real grandfather, because to me, as far as my biological grandfather, because to me he was there, and so we had a great relationship with my grandfather, and again, to me, you know, we didn't know that he wasn't our real grandfather. I mean, I didn't know. I'm sure my brothers and sisters probably, because I didn't care. But with my grandfather, we had a great relationship with him, you know.
So you always kind of remember that, and you want to be that to future generations.
Yeah. So I had a better relationship with my grandfather than my real father, and I didn't know on my mom's side, my grandfather passed before I was born, so I didn't know him at all.
So was he someone that would instill confidence in you and?
No, my grandfather. No, so I think my father. I think my mom says all the time, I remind her, out of all of her children, I remind her most of my father. My father passed away 2 years ago of cancer. Oh, sorry. But he was always my father. Every time I remember my father, he always did something for himself. He always worked for himself. And when he passed, he left farm for his children. So we have a farm in Michigan. So he left something for us, you know, that's why we have to, I tell my brothers and sisters, we have to keep this land, because he put a lot of work into this land. So I never remember my father ever working for anyone. He always worked for himself, you know. So I think I got a lot of that from him, is the fact that, you know, I had to work for myself, you know. So my father, even though he wasn't technically in my life, like, you know, but he was a great influence on me as far as doing what I needed to do as a entrepreneur and as a businessman and as a filmmaker. He was a great influence. He was a great influence. Yeah.
So even though maybe you didn't see him get up at 4 a.m. or whatever it was, you just knew that he had that work ethic in him. Obviously, if he was his own man. Like my father was like, he was his own. He didn't. You know, he was an independent man. You know, he did, I don't know what kind of work he did,
but I know that he always, he did for himself. He always had a beautiful home. He always, he always drove a nice car. But I never remember him ever going to work or working for someone. He always worked for himself. And I asked my mother, I was like, what did he do? What did he do, for a living? So, my father did his thing, but the independence that he had, the freedom that he had is what I admired most about him. He could have easily worked for the post office or something like that. He went to the military. He was in the Air Force. So, those jobs, he could easily came out and worked a job, but he was like, I'm going to be an independent man. I'm going to have my freedom. And that's what I admire most about my father, is the fact that, and that I think taught me a lot just from looking afar off, to want to do something for myself. Yeah.
It's interesting when we look back on our lives and see, like, oh yeah, like this person that I saw, whether I had a good relationship or whatever it was, or even if I knew them well, that I wanted to emulate something about them that I really admired,
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember my mom and my father divorced when I was 7 years old. So when they divorced, of course, you want, like, my father was like, he was in my life and I remember, because he had a drinking problem too. But I remember I was about 6 years old or 7 years old the day he stopped drinking. I know exactly where we were at. The last time I ever saw him get drunk again. So we were walking through an alley, and I clearly remember I was like 7, walking through an alley, and we went into the liquor store. He bought some liquor, and then walking through the alley, like in Inglewood, and he just threw the bottle down, and I never see him ever take a drink after that. And so when they divorced, my parents divorced, again, that was my father, and I was pretty upset. I was pretty mad at him, and it was I was in about 6th grade, and I had wrote him this long letter as far as as far as how I'm disappointed, and you left me and you were not in my life. And so he came over, and we had a conversation, I was like, he came over, had a conversation, and so but after that time, like, my father is, he's a I admire him so much, even though he wasn't there with me growing up a lot, but just seeing his freedom, his independence is why I always say, that I love him for that. Yeah.
I'm getting teary-eyed.
And that made me
You make me cry here.
And that made me, I think, that has a lot to do with me. And it's interesting because when I started making movies, he was proud. Yeah, he would call the people, my son, he was very proud of that. So, and my sister says, she's like, because my sister and my father are very close. They were very close, like very close. But I think that because he was so proud of me making movies, it's like, she was like, he always boasting about you making movies and stuff like that. But it's a great thing. Yeah, my father is, yeah.
All right. I'm gonna have to do a mascara check there.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any near-death experience?
Oh man, my sister doesn't remember this, but I do. She doesn't. I don't know if I should tell the story, but I'm gonna tell it. And I reminded her about it because my brother was a police officer. He had guns, but they were all legal. And we were very young. This was like I think I was in maybe like the 7th grade, right? And she swears she doesn't remember this. So we were all in my brother's, because my brother had like the big screen TV, and I would go there and we would go inside his room and we would watch, like, again, the John Hughes films, Dolomite films, and And like when I remember watching, and one of the things that really like stuck to me was one of my favorite films, Officer and Gentleman. And I think we were watching Officer and Gentleman that night, and my sister was playing with my brother's gun, and she was pointing at me, and it didn't go off, and she pointed to the side and it went off. But she said she doesn't remember. I was like, Coco, like my sister's name is Coco. I was like, Coco. She said, I don't remember that. I said, yeah. She's pointing the gun, but it didn't go off. So I think that's the only time. Other than that, if that's considered a near-death experience, I don't know, maybe, you know. But other than that, I don't ever recall having any near-death experiences at all. Yeah. Thank God I didn't get shot. Well, yeah. My sister, I love my sister, yeah.
That's nice. Like, you sound like you really have a close family.
Yeah, well, we're not as close as, like, I'm more close with my sister than my older brothers. But, like, me and my sister are very close. Like even with, like, she was so close with my father, and like my father, you know, like when he had his drinking problem, there were things he would do, and nothing like abusive. He never abused us. I don't even think my father I don't ever remember seeing him ever whoop us at all. He was not an abusive man. Even when he would get drunk, he was never abusive. But he would, like, there was one time my sister, she tells me that he took us, me and my sister, we were on the news, and he took us to this graveyard. My mother said he would call her up and say, what are you gonna do? But my sister, and you know, he would take me, because, you know, I love candy, and he would buy me candy. My sister's like, you back there eating that candy, and Daddy said he's gonna kill us, and I was like, oh my God. So my sister's always been there, like, as the, like, you know, she's always been a big sister, like, always. Like, now she calls me up, and always been a big supporter. Like, whenever a film come out, she's one of the first ones to buy the movies. Whenever I need a movie, or want to see a movie, I go over to her place, and she has all of my movies. So she's been a big supporter of my film career. Yeah.
Do you think that's why you like to do movies about sort of people's lives, and even the best of families can have, you know, squabbles or whatever? Mm-hmm. You think that's why you're attracted to that, and not something that's more like violent or?
Yeah, I think that the reason I'm attracted to the stories that I write has a lot to do with the movies that I was raised on. Again, like, I don't know how I can stress that, you know, I was like a big John Hughes fan, and I just, like, I would watch his movies, like Breakfast Club, and I would just watch his movies and just fall in love with his movies, you know, and watching the Spike Lee movies and watching Charles Band, just watching these movies, and I knew that even like the old Dolomite movies, they were like pimp movies, but they were, even in these pimp movies, there was a moral to the story. So I knew that you can do these films, and people can love these films, and they don't have to have these negative images. And I'm sure that growing up in the community that I grew up in, because now the community that is known as Inglewood was totally different when I was growing up. Like, when I was growing up, everybody on the block that we live on, we all, like, even today, you know, we all call ourselves cousins and stuff like that. We're not blood related, but we all grew up in the same community, but we were just all close. So those type of things definitely got an influence on me, you know, so many things but those things, just growing up in that type of environment where, you know, we would love, they're like people like on our block, even though we were not blood related, there was still this strong type of love. So that's something that, you know, molded me over the years, you know, and know that, you know, as a filmmaker, those type of moments in history are very important to me. And it's like a checkmate. Like, I have to make sure that I'm conscious of the fact that I know that the images that, you know, I have to put out the more positive images and stuff like that, because that's what growing up, that's what I witnessed, you know. And it's interesting because at one particular point, it was odd. Growing up, it was odd to see a single family home. Like, you know, in my community, it was like, you know, everybody was married. So it was odd to see, you know, a woman who lived, who didn't have a husband. And so those are the images that I saw growing up, you know, and those are the images that I want to portray.
How long do you typically spend on a screenplay?
It depends on the like if it's a romantic comedy, then what I do is I would give myself 2 weeks. That's just for a first draft, and once that first draft is done, then I'm always tweaking, even up to the day that we shoot. Even if we go on set and something doesn't feel right with the scene, then I'm going to tweak that scene. But I don't give myself a certain amount of time to say, okay. Well, I do give myself a certain amount of time is when I'm going to pitch the screenplay when I have a one side, but that normally takes 2 weeks. But it depends with a romantic comedy. So I have other screenplays like an action project, or I have a couple of those that I spend a little bit more time with, maybe 3 or 4 months, just researching and writing and doing things like that. But a romantic comedy, very simple, very easy for me to write. And those 2 weeks, knock it out in 2 weeks, and then send it out and for feedback. And
then, who are you sending it to for feedback?
So I have about 4 or 5 people who are a couple of producers friends of mine, a couple of actors friends of mine, who actually read it first and give me feedback on it. Yeah.
So they're trusted people. They're not going to be too nice, but they're not going to be brutal if they don't need to be, kind of.
Yeah, but I want them to be brutal. Yeah. So I have a guy who's a producer here in LA. I send it to him. He reads it. He gives me feedback. But I tell him, I need for you to be brutal. Oh yeah. So yeah. And these are people who the 2 young ladies I send it to, they're screenwriters.
Oh.
Yeah. So. But if they're not in the industry, I don't send it because they don't understand what they're reading, but they have to be in the industry in order for me to send it out. Because if you're not in the industry, I think it's kind of, you really don't know what meaning that in the industry, meaning they understand screenwriting, they understand, they're either an actor with a long list of credits, and they understand how a screenplay should be formatted, the different beats, the different turning points. They have to understand the whole structure of the screenplay. So I just don't just send out just anybody, but these are people I trust and say, okay, they're going to give me this feedback to make this project better.
When you say 2 weeks, does that mean from the very first sort of kernel of the idea to all the way to the end, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's why. Because even before I write anything, I'm thinking about the screenplay from the beginning to the end. I'm thinking about it. And then once I do the outline, I make sure when I do my outline, so I say, the first scene, and I do minutes. I'm gonna have this outline, this for 2 minutes or this for 3 minutes. The scenes, I put minutes next to the scene. So I know that for this particular scene, this scene has to be 2 minutes, this scene has to be 3 minutes. But then once I write the first draft, then it's about 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah. But once I have the outline, then I start on the script and give myself 2 weeks and say, okay, I'm gonna knock it out in 2 weeks.
What do you think is your biggest accomplishment so far in your career?
So my biggest accomplishment in my filmmaking career is there's so many negative images that we put out as Black people, as far as in the music industry, in the film industry. There's so many negative images. And I think my biggest accomplishment is put out more positive images, and the images that I have put out, meaning to see Black people more working, and you see the family unit, you see Black men actually being positive, doing something for themselves. So those images, those positive images, to me, that's worth anything, because at the end of the day, is that when people see those images, and I get so many emails from people from all walks of life just thanking me for putting out more positive content. And just putting out more positive content in this world, that's worth more to me than anything at all. Like I can make a film for $10,000, as long as I'm putting them positive images out. Those are important to me, and they're important to me because of this. Like we already hear, like most people, even black people, are afraid to walk down any black community, because I had asked the question on my social media page, how many people would walk down the Inglewood community? And most people, black people, said no. They would not go into the Inglewood community. I've done workshops, free workshops. They would not come into the Inglewood community because of the negative images. So people are justified. People say that they're concerned for their lives, and they have the right to be. So I think that once we put out more positive images, then we can change by changing the images and by changing the condition of Black America, meaning that the Black community, where it could be safe, it could be a safe place to live. I think that we can change the scope of America. Totally change the scope of America, because our communities, when you talk about the violence in our community, right? We know when we talk about the violence in America, 9 times out of 10, we're dealing with the violence that's going on in the Black community. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. So for me, is by changing these images, you see people who look at these images and say, okay, I haven't thought about it like this. Now you see people who can own their own businesses. Now you see people who can, walk through a community. Like for me, Black and Privilege was like a community that one lady said today. She said, I really enjoyed the fact that you see the children who are out playing. Those images are important to me, because when I was growing up, you had children who can go out and play. Nowadays, in Chicago, a 1-year-old young girl was shot. This happened like 3 or 4 days ago. Now that young girl I'm on my second marriage. My first wife, brother's granddaughter. That's how close it is. But she was shot. And so, and I talked to my ex-wife about it a couple of days ago, and she may not make it. So, but we hear these children being killed in the Black community. So how do we stop this? So again, we talked about how China now is a superpower, but one of the things that they did to change the condition of the Chinese people, to make them a great people that they are today, was they put their artists together and they said, okay, we're going to put out more positive images. So for me, putting out more positive images, not only correct the condition of the Black community, but it can correct the condition of America as a whole, where people are not afraid to come to America because of the violence that's in America, and so that's important to me, very, very important to me, because we can definitely change this country for the best, without having to quote unquote build a wall. That's how I want to see the entire world. I want to see a world where people, children, period, can walk down the street. Women can walk down the street without being harassed. A world where we can, no matter where you are, that there's no reason. Here's the thing: there's no reason why our Mexican brothers and sisters over in Mexico, or we should even be talking about a wall, or they're trying to come over to America for a better way. People should be able to, You know, in order to come to America, it should be coming over as a tourist. Just like we go to different countries, we should have to go to different countries for a job. You know, we should be able to go there, you know, just to relax, just to, you know, if we want to come, okay, we go there, okay, to live, but not just to survive. People should be able to stay in, you know, to live in their country where they can make because I'm sure they all prefer to live in their country and make a decent living. That's just natural. So there shouldn't be a reason why people have to go to other countries to make a living, where there's enough wealth in this world where we can take all human beings, right, regardless of race, class, all human beings can live a decent, a safe, strong life. And that's the world I want to see. I want to see a world where we don't even have to be talking about building a wall, because our Mexican brothers and sisters in Mexico, or not just in, you know, or our brothers and sisters in Africa, or our brothers and sisters in whatever country that you're in, that you don't have to be with the mindset, okay, I want to come to America for a better way of life, because in your country, you do have a better way of life. And everyone deserves a better way of life, no matter where you are in this world. You deserve to live. You deserve to live a good life, and that's what I want to do. And so my greatest accomplishments is to show, particularly because as a black man, black people in a positive image. But you're never going to catch me showing anybody, regardless of who they are, in a negative image at all. So whenever I do characters about my Latino brothers and sisters, regardless of who white people, I always, like, even with Black and Privilege, when I did the character about this guy named Big Papa, I sat down with David Crawford, make sure that, who's the white guy in the film, you know, to make sure that these images are not making the white community look bad, or these images that are not, you know, when I did do films and I have Latinos in it, make sure that these images are not making the Latinos look bad. Or so this is very important to me. You know, I don't want to put out that negative energy at all. So that's been my greatest accomplishment, and that's better for me than winning an Oscar. Winning anything is the images that we put out to the world. Yeah.
It's interesting when people, you were saying about like pointing a finger at other people or whatever, but it's interesting when people point within their own community, whichever community it is, and say, I want to fix this problem, or I don't like some of the stereotypes, or I don't like how we're turning on each other. You know, do you think sometimes people get rubbed the wrong way when you try to address that? Absolutely.
Just like yesterday, again, I think I was telling you yesterday, I was talking to this young lady, and she was saying that she pulled me to the side. She was like, look, this project, referring to Black and Privilege, was difficult for me to watch. And I said, why? She said, because it's difficult when you have to look at yourself and examine yourself. She said, it's difficult. And so whenever you have to, again, like, you know, it's easier for us to, like, for people, period, to point the finger and say, okay, this is why such and such is going on, instead of just looking in the mirror and dealing with the evil within. So it's easier to point the finger, because most of us don't like to examine self. So when she said that, I'm like, you know, she said, but it needs to be dealt with. We need to talk about it. So this is what we do with Black and Privilege, is that what we do is we don't point the fingers at nobody, because we have to correct our own issues, right? We have to deal with our own issues. And how do we do that? So there's a scene where the guy goes out, one of the main character goes out, because the people moving into from the projects moving to the community, this thriving Black community, and now you see all this trash on the ground. So he goes out with a paper bag and he starts to pick the trash up. So are we waiting for somebody else to come and pick the trash up, or are we gonna just say, okay, if there's trash on your street, on your block, you can't depend on the city to come and pick that trash up. It's just as simple as that. Pick the trash up, you know, and so that's what the project is about. It's about examining self and correcting self, and so our communities can be safe and decent. Like we all should. Like this is just it's a human. That is a human privilege. It doesn't have to do with another thing too. Is that I know we talk about you said a lot of things. People talk about white privilege, right? And I know people may disagree with me on this. Is the fact that why should we ask anybody to give up their privilege? I don't think we have a right to ask anybody to give up their privilege, because we just have to. Every human being should be like to go out and walk down a decent neighborhood, or a safe neighborhood, to have your community to be economically strong. That's like a privilege, and that's something that we don't want to take away from other people. Like you have that right. You have that right to live in a decent neighborhood. You have that right to live in a clean neighborhood, to live in a economically strong neighborhood, and nobody have the right to take that privilege away from you. Just create your own privilege within your neighborhood to make it strong, to make it decent, so your children, our children can walk down the street, our women can walk down the street. You don't see guys hanging out on the street. Nobody should be asked to give up their privilege for anything at all. You know. So that's my thing on that. That's my take on that.
And has anybody criticized you on the movie from within the community because they felt that something wasn't portrayed right, or you were making a statement or something and they felt angry and you were surprised? Absolutely.
Last night, I was sitting in the front, but the lady in the back of me, she didn't know I was a director. And she's like, I don't like the way he's portraying us. I don't like it. And the other lady was like, you have to. They were having a conversation. So these are the conversations that I want. So I just don't like the way it's negative. The other lady was like, well, you have to see what the guy's talking about, what the movie is talking about. Just look at the messages that's up in there. The other lady was like, so during the Q&A, the lady who was just like, I don't like it, she got up and she left. Oh. So yeah, so I mean, because it's hard to. I'm telling you, it's very hard to look at and examine self. It's like the most difficult thing. So it's easy, like even as filmmakers, right? So as filmmakers, we can say, like you hear a lot of filmmakers say, well, they don't want to do anything, upset with Hollywood because they don't want to, because they're not making films. So they place the blame on Hollywood and say they're not. It's this whole thing Illuminati. And said that, you know, the Illuminati won't allow me to make movies. No, man, you won't make movies. It has nothing to do with the Illuminati, you know. So it's easier to blame things on the Illuminati, or to say the reason why certain people are successful in the business because they're doing certain things.
I saw them give the sign.
Yes, I'm like, come on, man. Maybe these people just work hard, you know. They did something. They didn't go in with the mindset of I can't do it unless I sell my soul, you know. But it's easier to say those type of things when you feel that our careers are not progressing the way we feel like they are. So it's easy to say it's the Illuminati, blame it on the Illuminati, instead of saying, okay, maybe I'm just not projecting my mind to do, maybe it's those thoughts. Because you know, the subliminal, the subconscious mind is very important. It's very powerful. So if you think that the only way you can be rich, or the only way you can be successful or do this is because you have to sell your soul, then you're never going to be successful. You're never going to be rich, because you feel that in order to get these things, I have to sacrifice something. I have to sacrifice my soul. No, you don't have to. You can be wealthy, you can be rich, you can be successful, and still keep your the moral fabric of who you are as a human being. But we give our subconscious minds these commands when we really don't have to. I mean, we have to just know that we can be successful, regardless of what. Yeah.
You know, there's xenophobia, which is fear of the other. And I forgot what the term is for fear of people within your own group, so to speak. But it is really interesting to examine that. Whoever your group is, whether it's in church or college or your neighborhood or street racing. But it's just interesting because I think that's like a taboo topic. Because it's like, well, no, we're supposed to, but when there's issues within the group with everybody, whoever they are, and there's stereotypes that certain people are supposed to live up to, I'm more referring to my own situation, but it makes people very angry, and it's very taboo to kind of talk about that. And you know, I applaud you for, I haven't seen the film, but I applaud you for doing that, because you know, you are going to rattle people, whatever it is, when you talk about your own neighborhood or whatever it is, and you challenge stereotypes.
Oh yeah. One of the things that a couple of audience members said yesterday, that one guy said, he's like, man, he said, I'm just stunned. I really don't know what to say. He said, this is needed. He said, but I just don't know. I don't know what to, you know, he was like, I don't know what to say, but I know this is needed. You know, I'm like, it is needed. I mean, I know it's because it's, and the audience be like completely silent when watching this film. I'm like, okay, like what's going on? It's like silence. Because people are thinking, and people are, and like yesterday, I've seen some people get up and walk out because it's difficult. It's difficult to, again, it's difficult to like look at self. So, you know, they got up and walked out. It's like, you know, it's nothing you can do about that. You know, it's nothing you can do. But as long as we place the blame on others and not do self-critique or look at self, then we can never get out of the condition that we're in, because we're always pointing a finger instead of just saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do to correct the issues in our community. And people, like, no one wants to see, like, what human being wants to see a 1-year-old child gets killed? No one wants to see that. People want to see a community, all communities, I'm sure, decent, safe. People want to see that, you know. So that's just my take on things. Yeah.
Are you going to do a volume 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it already in the works?
Well, I'm starting to outline it, and I'm definitely gonna do a volume 2.